Planning Board meeting. All meetings are video recorded by Westwood Media Center and filmed live on Westwood Media Center's YouTube and local government channels, Comcast Channel 12 and Verizon Channel 42. As a friendly reminder, please turn off your cell phone ringers and stay muted. Please stay muted while not speaking to assist with clear audio. The meeting will be civil and all people treated respectfully. The format of the meeting will be when an item is called by the chair, the applicant will present their application to the board. The board will proceed to staff comments. The board members will ask questions of the applicant and will have a board discussion. For public hearing items, the public will then be given an opportunity to comment. Items that are not a public hearing, the opportunity for public comment will be at the discretion of the board chair. Please only one person speaking at a time. When it's time for public comment period for public hearings, the chair will ask those wishing to speak to use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or attendees may type a question in the Q&A section. To raise your hand, click on the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen and wait for the host to call on you and unmute you. You may then click the lower hand afterwards. For those participating by phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and wait for the host to unmute you. Once unmuted, please identify yourself by stating your name and address for the record. Please direct all comments and questions through the chair. All people will be given the opportunity to speak, but in the interest of time and fairness, repetitive or off-topic comments may be cut short. For items that are not public hearing not a public hearing, public comment is at the discretion of the board chair. For items that are not a public hearing, it's encouraged to place comments in the Q&A and the chair may read and respond. Attendees will not be on video, but will be unmuted if called on during the public comment portion. Nora, am I wrong? This seems like this was from way back in the day when Zoom first started for us. This reading, it seems different.
That might have been an old one. I'm not sure. I'll check with you.
All right. It really doesn't matter. I think it says the same thing. Any changes to tonight's agenda, Nora?
No changes.
Okay, so first off,
several participants who'd like to join for the first application, which is a continuation of your public hearing for consideration of flexible multiple use overlay district special permit for 26 Dartmouth Street for the 24M facility. So I will begin bringing them in.
We do have one hand raised, Nora. Do you know what that might be pertaining to?
I don't know yet. Let me get everyone in first and we'll go back to that.
Looks like Pat just joined us.
Each of the 24M representatives need to accept the promote to panelist in order to come in. I think that's everyone. I see it. The hand raised is Lou Petrosi. Lou, if you could type your question in the chat. If you're just looking for the order of the agenda, you are towards the end. You're item number 5. All right, I think that's everyone that's associated with this application. Brian, please let me know if I'm missing anyone.
I think this is everyone, certainly everyone we need to begin. So thank you.
So if you'd like to get started.
Thank you, Nora. Thank you, members of the board, for the opportunity to be here. I'm Brian Dugdale from Goulston Stores. I'm here on behalf of the owner of 26 Dartmouth Street, which is the Seon Group. I've got Bob and Delia and Joe D. Rienzo from the Seon Group. We also have 24M here, Tim Rennick from 24M and others, including their consulting team, and Mike Terry, who's representing them, are here. And we've got most of our consultant team here to answer questions as well. We presented to this board at the public hearing, at the opening of the public hearing on October 25th. Since that time, we've been working collaboratively and diligently with members of the town staff, as well as the Dedham Westwood Water District, the fire department, and other parts of the town to try to address comments. So we'd like to start off both on behalf of the Seon Group and 24M. We want to say thank you, especially to Nora, as well as Stephen Locke from the Dedham Westwood Water District, and the teams at the Beta Group at Weston and Sampson have just been really excellent and extremely thorough. And of course, member of this board, which gave a very thorough review and very clearly indicated what your concerns were with respect to this project. So thanks for those comments. We really appreciate them. We submitted a very voluminous sort of supplement, I'll call it. It included revised site plans, stormwater report, revisions to our environmental impact of design review narrative, responses to peer review comments. We gave chemical hygiene plans and detailed operations and maintenance plan, all of which is going to be covered in more detail by Brian Dundon, who's the project civil engineer. But we feel really great because that, as a result of that collaborative process, if you've had a chance to look at the peer review letters, we've really gotten to a place where we feel like we've really made this project exactly what it needs to be. And as a reminder, this is 140,000 square foot existing industrial building. It's in the flexible mixed use overlay district, as well as the water protection overlay district. The project includes changes to the building, but no additional gross square feet. Changes to the site plan that include changes to the parking circulation, pedestrian connectivity, and of course the stormwater management on site. The peer review process I mentioned was a lot of the focus was on making sure that we address the concerns that the water protection overlay district regulations are intended to address, which is to make sure that based on the application materials we've submitted, that there's really not going to be an adverse material impact both during and after construction in connection with this use. Again, this use relates to research and development of lithium ion batteries. And we feel like to the extent that there's any sort of risks to the water supply, they've really been adequately measured with control and response measures that are reliable. And the peer reviewers have taken a really close look at that to make sure that any risks from accidents or system failures have been adequately addressed as well. So with that, we will respectfully request an FMUOD special permit after this board has a chance to ask questions of our team and after we've made our presentation this evening. The flexible mixed use overlay district special permit allows it to be consolidated with that water resources protection overlay district special permit, as well as the environmental impact and design review. At its core, we're making the case that this project provides beneficial effects that outweigh adverse impacts. You can look at the project's effects on the social, economic, and community needs, traffic flow and safety, adequacy of utilities and other public services, neighborhood character, impacts on the natural environment, and fiscal impacts. We submitted a very voluminous application way back in, I think, August, that detailed how the project complies with all those requirements. And all of the hard work that we've done to respond to the peer review comments has really strengthened that case considerably since the time we met in October. So we feel really good about that. We're excited about this project and very appreciative of the input and that we've received from this board and the town. So we appreciate it. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Brian Dundon, who can give you a little bit more detail about the project changes and the process that we went through with the peer reviewers. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. What I was going to do is just share a site plan, if I may. If everybody can see the site plan, I will. This is the overall site plan.
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. Good evening. Just for the record, my name is Brian Dungeon. I am the site civil engineer working on behalf of the property owner, the Sayon Management Group. As Brian Dugdale has alluded to, we have revised the set of site civil drawings. Not only the drawings, the stormwater management report, as well as the EIDR narrative, in response to comment letters that were received in October from both the Beta Engineering Group and Weston and Sampson, who provided a comment letter on behalf of the Dedham Westwood Water District. We, at the end of November, right after the Thanksgiving break, completed our review of the revised plans. We had it with collaboration with Nora. We've had a coordination call with both the folks at Weston and Sampson, as well as with Beta, to go through a dry run and review with that group the revisions. We outlined the revisions that were made to the plan. So what I would like to do is take this opportunity to kind of go through the changes that have been performed to date since our initial filing or initial public hearing back in October 24. The comments that I'm going to be outlining or discussing right now are in response to the initial Beta letter of October 4th and their supplemental letter dated December 12th. As I go through them, I'm going to hit on them page by page, and I'll just summarize what the comment was and then how we responded to it. So comment number one, it acknowledges that the existing site, and what I'm defining the site as the main site with the building plus the remote parking lot, which has 92 spaces on it, is currently not in compliance with existing minimum lot frontage, lot width, or lot coverage requirements. They are right now existing non-conforming, and the renovations being planned to accommodate a new tenant 24M will still remain non-conforming, but they will be less non-conforming under the redevelopment condition as it relates to lot open space, lot coverage, open space, as opposed to the existing condition. There will be no changes to lot frontage or lot width with that. The second comment that came up from Beta's initial review was in our EIDR narrative. It was recommended that we include a section regarding earth material movements, which outlined and describes land disturbances that are to occur, surplus material to be disposed of off-site, and fill material that needed to be brought in site to perform said improvements. We have added to our EIDR narrative a section V, which is titled Earth Material Movement, which outlines in depth the various land disturbance activities and earth material activities that will occur with certain quantities provided for each activity. So the amount of material to be imported to the site and the amount of material to be exported to the site, and total land disturbances to perform the site improvements that are being planned. Regarding the EIDR plans themselves, which are the site plans, Beta Engineering recommended that we provide both the existing and proposed storm drain lines, flow arrow directions. We have revised the grading and drainage plans, which is the drawing C2A through 2C series, to show said flow directional arrows. We were also asked to identify the location of trash disposal areas. We have shown that on the overall site plan and on the site plan set. The disposal areas will be located in the lower left-hand corner in this general location here. We have clarified in our coordination call with Beta Engineering and Weston and Sampson, we did provide some existing conditions, photos of the front building facade before the improvements were performed. They were attached to the R.G. O'Connell response to comment letter that we prepared and submitted as part of this application. Another comment is that that we were asked to provide a truck circulation plan that showed how fire access trucks would navigate the site. We have provided that plan as part of the site plan package. It's at the end of the set. It should be noted that plan, that fire truck circulation plan, was just previously reviewed before the holidays by the fire department. We were made aware that the town of Westwood is in the process of purchasing a new piece of fire apparatus equipment. And we were asked to run this up, provide a second fire access truck plan that showed the simulation movements of that new vehicle, which we did and provided independently to the fire department. And although I was not present at that meeting, my understanding is the second and updated circulation plan meets with their approval. There was a comment from Beta Engineering acknowledging that right now the minimum open space requirement of 20% is not being achieved under the existing condition, and that will also hold true condition. What I will say is, under the proposed condition, we'll be reducing. There will be a 3% reduction in open space provided. It will be reduced from 89.2% down to 86.4%, which equates to about 7,300 square feet of additional landscape / open space area being provided on the project. And the majority of that landscaped area will be located in the lower right-hand corner in this landscape island that's being developed for certain electrical equipment, and along the north side of the main building where we're introducing a landscape strip adjacent to the building. The other comment that Beta had with respect to the flexible multiple use overlay district, Beta Engineering deferred to the town regarding waiver from the minimum project area requirements. If you recall, Attorney Dugdale mentioned in our initial application that in order to be fall under the FMUOD permitting review guidelines, a minimum development area of 10 acres was needed. We're just a little bit under 7 acres, 6.9, and at the initial meeting, the board voted to grant that waiver at that time. We were asked to clarify portions of the site that are intended to serve as a public amenity area. It is our plans to have the open space area along the front of the main building, where it's adjacent to the Dedham Westwood Water District area, is to open that up during the spring, winter, and falls as a public amenity area to incorporate in picnic tables and whatnot, so to function as a gathering area for the employees and surrounding businesses of that piece. Regarding specific comments on the EIDR regulations, we were asked to provide or to stamp the cover sheet of the EIDR plans. We have done that. We were also asked to provide the town of Westwood standard notes under section 7.1.6.16 of the EIDR requirements. Those notes have been added to the demolition and erosion control drawing C-1. They've been specifically outlined as town of Westwood notes, so the contractor is well aware of his obligations to comply with that criteria during renovations. We had some landscaping requirements to be made under the plan set. We have revised our landscape plant schedule sheet. It's on drawing L1 to include the additional information that is required in section 7.1.9.3. We expanded that list to include all the additional requirements that were requested. We have also provided an exterior lighting plan. We are lighting or upgrading the existing parking lot lighting on the main building parcel in this general area. We have also provided the lighting will be an LED light fixture. zero spillage, minimal spillage. Spillage will be obtained along the perimeter property lines. And we have provided a catalog cut sheet of the fixtures to be utilized both in the parking lot and mounted to the building itself. We were asked to, continuing, we were asked to stamp the EIDR title page or cover sheet. We have done that. It's been provided and resubmitted. We were asked to provide cut and fill removal calculations. Again, that was added to section V of the EIDR narrative that the earth material movement section. So all cut and fill material quantities were provided. There was some comments regarding clarification comments requested on behalf of the traffic report that was initially submitted. We have did the study assessed a 7-year horizon, and the question was asked as to what the impacts may be on a 5-year horizon. We responded back that there will be no the conclusions raised under the 7-year horizon will not be any different than under the 5-year horizon. We have also provided a gap analysis. We clarified in the response to comments of how the gap analysis was performed. There was a comment that the traffic assessment did not outline any proposed site improvements or any mitigation or contribution for site improvements. And that is the case based on the redevelopment of the site, the traffic related impacts. The existing infrastructure is able to accommodate the traffic associated or anticipated to be generated without any mitigation or improvements or upgrades to the existing roadway infrastructure. So there was no financial mitigation impact being planned or proposed at this time. There was a request to summarize the traffic daily volumes and speeds along University Ave. We have done that and provided that in our response to comment letter that was just recently submitted with this package. We were asked on the traffic standpoint too, understanding that the state is undertaking a bridge improvement project over 95 and Dedham Street, and a new off-ramp is currently being constructed as you travel north on 93 to the Dedham Street interchange. We have provided a response that with that recent that future improvement to be completed, the conclusions that we were raised in our the initial traffic impact access study report will remain unchanged. There will be no detrimental impact to the roadway network as a result of the addition of that off-ramp. The review, there were 2 comments that dealt with parking and parking provided. Upon completion of the renovations, there is 191 parking spaces being planned for the site. We recognize that it doesn't meet the minimum standards as outlined within the ordinance. However, what we're looking to do is get approval for a reduced parking count as we indicated, or as Brian has indicated. The 24M is a research and development type firm where the majority of the traffic to be generated is employee driven. They intend to employ about 180 people to occupy the site. And they also we've also allocated about 11 parking spaces for visitors. In consultation with the tenant, they feel that they have ample parking to support their need. In addition to providing the parking, they will be encouraging their employees to utilize various different modes of transportation and taking advantage of the commuter rail station that is a little over a half a mile north of the project site. They'll be encouraging those incentives with their employees. So we believe, and our tenant believes, that the parking provided, 191 spaces, is adequately suitable to handle both client visitation needs and employee needs. We were also requested as part of the design of the parking lot on the remote lot, which is diagonally across the street, to revise the layout such that we provide a 5-foot landscape strip along the rear property line. Right now, there is no buffer. We were able to revise the plan to accommodate that perimeter landscape strip of 5 feet. In looking at our pavement section that was submitted, it was requested or to be in compliance with the minimum standards under section 1.3.1 of the parking standards, that we provide a 3-inch binder course pavement section with a 2-inch top course section. So we have revised the detail to reflect the same on that. With respect to ADA accessibility route, we have revised the layout and design configuration of the ADA accessible parking spaces, which are located in this general area. Right now, you'll see 6 spaces. And today, what they abut is a landscape strip. So what we've done is converted a portion of that landscape strip into a concrete sidewalk that will provide a direct accessible route from the spaces to the front door entry without utilizing or having to access the parking lot, the lot area. We were asked to indicate the snow storage areas on the plans. We have done this on the overall site plan in both locations. It should be noted that we included in our post-construction operation and maintenance plan an entire section on snow management and snow storage. Includes this same figure. It also includes the do's and don'ts on how snow will be managed and stored. It is recognized by the landlord that the snow storage areas are limited on site based on existing site constraints. So that provisions have been provided or will be provided that during heavy snowstorm events or reoccurring snowstorm events, that provisions for offsite disposal will be required. And it has been agreed to by the landlord. There's also a comment with respect to, in addition to a fire truck maneuvering plan, is to provide a delivery truck maneuvering plan. And that was included in the set as well. It is identified as TT-2, shows the typical movements of the delivery trucks that come in and out of the site. They can navigate the site without any conflicts to the existing parking facilities. Beta Engineering did also comment on the fact and recognized that with the remote lot located to the northeast of us, that it's going to require a crossing at the existing railroad tracks, the freight railroad line owned by CSX Rails. And that's in this location right in here. We've had some initial discussions with the railroad on this. We have not advanced those discussions yet, as it was requested that we get a little bit farther along in the permitting and approval of the project before we initiate our detailed discussions with them. So that's what we're doing. That's the goal right now, is assuming this project is approved, we will be initiating discussions with the railroad to seek approval for the construction of the sidewalk across the railroad tracks and installing the appropriate signage and whatnot per the railroad standards to accommodate their request. And we have no problem with, again, understanding that should this project be approved, that if there was a condition that a final plan with the railroad's approval be submitted to the town for their files, we'd be more than happy to accommodate that request. Regarding landscaping, there were some minor comments on the drawings, in addition to the EITR narrative revisions that we tried to accommodate as well. On the remote parking line, I mentioned the rear sideline. We increased the landscape strip from 0 to 5. We also did that along the northerly boundary line, which abuts the recently completed project on this site. I think it was just completed about 2 months ago, but a new 5-foot landscape strip is being provided along there. We have also ensured that on our landscape plans, the perimeter landscape tree plantings were not spaced more than 27 feet apart. We've acknowledged that and done that where we can. There was an acknowledgement that we revised the landscape plantings such that they'd be located 4 feet on center from the face of curb. There are 4 areas, and they predominantly falls within the remote parking lot area, that these landscape island end caps are only 6 feet wide. So therefore, we cannot meet that requirement. We tried to meet it to the extent that we could. So we'll be looking for approval to have trees be installed at a distance of less than 4 feet on center from the face of curb. There was a requirement that at least one divider island be provided for the northern parking lot, which had a longitudinal island in it. Again, this was alluding to on the main lot where the building is, that a longitudinal island be incorporated into one of these rows. Unfortunately, we could not accommodate that request in order to accommodate that request, it would result in a loss of parking. And the additional loss of parking is not going to meet the needs of our tenant to be able to operate at this facility. So such that we are seeking the board's approval to not have to install that longitudinal island. That also holds true for having terminal islands at the beginnings and ends of the parking rows. We've just come down to a situation where we're just trying to balance landscaping needs versus parking needs. And right now, in order for the tenant to efficiently operate this facility, the drop dead number on parking provided is at 191. So we didn't have the opportunity to increase the amount of landscaping on site, either through island end caps or longitudinal parallel landscape islands without the loss of additional parking. So again, therefore, we'll be seeking the board's approval to not have island end caps installed at the beginnings and ends of the rows on the main parking field in these locations as I've outlined here. Again, a note was made to provide evergreen shrubs at the terminal islands. We have, to the extent that we could do that, we have provided that. The landscape plan has been updated to show that. We have also been updated the notes in the landscaping that all shrubs need to be 24 inches in height prior at time of planting. We agreed to that. On the site plan itself, we have a pedestrian crossing sign that's located in this area. It was asked to be relocated to be in front of the crosswalk. So we have revised that location to accommodate that request. And as I mentioned, we have provided a site photometrics plan as part of our resubmission documents that relights the main lot 57, excuse me. We have also shown the location of the water line that services the site. And we have also provided the call out notes on the plans acknowledging what utilities are staying, what are being removed. As a result of resurfacing the parking lot area, we have identified the rims on the drainage and sewer structures that would need to be adjusted to the new grades if need be. So we've provided the details for that. Beta's review also included a review of the stormwater management bylaw, and there are a number of comments that have come on that have been provided for that. They've asked for in the stormwater management report itself, a narrative which describes the project impacts and mitigation. We have provided that in section 8.4 of the stormwater management report. The requirements of the stormwater management bylaw requires profiles for the drainage trunk lines. We are requesting approval not to have to prepare the profiles. The reason for that is the existing stormwater management infrastructure is remaining as is. There are no changes or alterations being planned for it. It already exists. So we didn't see the benefit of having the profiles generated, and we're hoping that the board would concur with our findings. Beta acknowledged that some of the storm drainage structures on site are a catch basin to catch basin connection, and they deferred to the town with respect to any alterations to that. It should be known that, and again, it'll come up a little later in my presentation, that we have on each of the runs for the stormwater storm drain system, prior to its discharge from the site, we are proposing a stormwater BMP that achieves removing and at an 80% TSS removal rate, the total suspended solids accumulated within stormwater runoff. And there will also be a phosphorus removal rate of greater than 51% achieved. So we believe that although there are catch basin to catch basin connections, the upgrades being planned for the stormwater management system will still achieve and meet the guidelines or the objectives of the stormwater management bylaw with respect to removing pollutants from the stormwater runoff and phosphorus. There was a request that all new piping have a slope no less than 1%. That is the case with the revised plans. Revised pipe calculations to utilize this 25-year stormwater event. This condition is really not applicable anymore, because if you recall, under our initial submission, we were proposing a subsurface stormwater drainage basin that was designed to infiltrate stormwater runoff back into the ground to promote groundwater recharge. Acknowledging that the majority of the site is located within 400 feet of a public water supply, and that's what this dashed line represents here and over here. In our initial meetings, comments by Beta and as well as Weston and Sampson, they kind of frowned upon incorporating in a subsurface infiltration system within 400 feet of a public water supply. And it should be noted that that's also the recommendation as outlined in the stormwater MEDEP stormwater standards as well. So what we did do is look at areas that were outside the zone 1, which is on the remote parking lot, this area in here, to see if we could suitably place a subsurface stormwater infiltration basin. We performed in the field soil permeability test. Those tests came back and concluded that the soils are not suitable for the installation of a subsurface infiltration basin, as the soil permeability rate was less than the minimum requirement of 0.17 inches per hour. We have provided, as part of our supplemental information, the backup that supports the infiltration soil permeability testing that was performed by the project's geotechnical engineer, Northeast Geotech. As I mentioned, there was some questions about the subsurface infiltration basin. Again, as I mentioned, we did the initial testing. We could not find a suitable area on site. And this has been supported based on the review from Beta Engineering. They've reviewed it, and Weston Sampson has reviewed it. Although I won't speak for, I believe that Beta is on the phone. They have concurred with our results and were supportive of the fact that we were not having any subsurface infiltration within the 400-foot public water supply wells. Again, I just mentioned the in situ hydraulic conductivity testing. We performed that, which eliminated the area outside that area. We have provided in our updated report the necessary TSS removal calculations and supporting documentation regarding the stormwater BMPs that we are planning to use to treat stormwater runoff. And I will just see if I can just scroll down to. Whoop, what happened to it? Oh, something happened to the all went white. I'm not sure what happened. But let me see if it'll regenerate itself, and I'll just kind of quickly go through the rest of this. As I mentioned, there was the acknowledgement of the phosphorus. What we are using is a biofilter type BMP, and it is a structural BMP that is a filtration system that as stormwater enters it, it filters the rainfall runoff so that it captures 80% of the total suspended solids accumulating within the first inch of the runoff, as well as achieves a 51% or greater phosphorus removal rate. There are 5 of these BMP structures proposed, and it's on each leg of the storm drain system that traverses through the main lot and then discharges out at the lower left-hand corner. And I apologize, I'm not sure why I just lost all my plans. In addition to that, there was some comments regarding the post-construction operation and maintenance plan that was prepared. We have updated that post-construction operation and maintenance plan to include narratives acknowledging that the site is located in certain critical areas, acknowledging that it's within 400 feet of public water supply wells, as well as located within the town of Westwood's water resource protection overlay district, and reinforcing the fact that infiltration systems are not to be constructed within 400 feet of said wells. We have also updated the O&M plan to include a series of site inspections that'll not only occur on a weekly basis, it's weekly, monthly, semi-annually, and annually. It outlines a list of activities that need to be performed by the landlord on a regular basis. With that, it should also be noted that as part of the design of the storm drain system, you may recall that the existing loading facilities are located internal to the building, but the loading dock area slopes to the outdoors, and at the outside face of the building, there is a trench drain. And what happens there is that, in the event of a spill within the loading dock area, it slopes to the trench drain. We have incorporated into the design of that trench drain a shutoff valve that would be initiated in the event of a spill internal to the loading dock area, either from a hydraulic line or from one of the loading dock lifts. If there was an oil spill or hydraulic oil spill and it reached the floor of the loading dock, the gate valve would be shut off, and therefore the trench drain would be any oil that would get to the trench drain would be isolated to the trench drain. It would not be able to leave there until it was properly mitigated and cleaned. And then at that point, once that is mitigated and cleaned, the valve would be opened for use. We have also included in our O&M plan that once, at a minimum once a year, that valve be exercised, turned open and closed to ensure that it's functioning and operating accordingly. We were also asked to update the plans to show the limits of the zone 1. I believe I showed you those on the drawings already, that they have been updated. We have also included in our submission a draft of our stormwater pollution prevention plan that will be implemented during construction. Prior to that beginning, again, that was has been reviewed by the folks at Beta and by Weston and Sampson. It should be noted that Beta did recommend that once the SWIP has been signed off and acknowledged, and a number has been given by the EPA, that a copy of the executed SWIP and EPA number be provided to the town. We are more than happy to do that and would accept that as a condition should the project be approved. Beta did acknowledge that some of the soils are poorly draining and therefore requested some increased erosion control barriers be installed along the perimeter of the site to prevent migrating soils. We have since done that and added that to the plans as well. We have some of the comments that we have is, under our initial submission, we were asked to provide erosion control barriers around our excavations for the subsurface basins to prevent migration of fines into the open pits. Again, those are not applicable anymore because of the elimination of those the elimination of that BMP. We have provided inlet protections for all existing catch basins. In our post-construction O&M plan, we have provided in our construction stormwater pollution prevention plan, we've outlined a narrative that includes a schedule as to the sequencing of events and the anticipated timeline of those events that would occur. In our operation and maintenance plan, we've provided the additional information that was requested with some clerical comments by Beta Engineering. We have included that, which included an illicit discharge statement that has been included in the final report and signed by the landlord, stating that there are no illicit discharges, either existing or proposed for the redevelopment of the site. And we have received confirmation from the Conservation Commission agent that this site is not located within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone, or within the 200-foot riverfront area, the Ponset River. If I can see if I can, for some reason, the plans are all locked up.
Brian, I took off your screen. If you want to
Okay.
try and share yours again, you can. Otherwise, if you tell me what sheet to go to, I'll navigate.
I think it's C2B, Nora, would be the sheet with the storm drainage.
Is that it?
Yeah, if you could just blow that up, I'll just show you where the stormwater structural BMPs. You'll see the rectangles on this. In this case, you'll see two of them. I don't know if you can see right there, one there and one right above it. Those are inline stormwater BMPs that will be be addressing how we remove total suspended solids and phosphorus from stormwater runoff that is generated on site within the 400-foot within the wellhead protection area. There are a total of 5 of those. There are 4 of them on the main lot, and there is 1 on the remote parking lot area. It should also be noted that we did from our our October 25th hearing, as a follow-up to that, I did receive an email from Nora back in November 3rd, which requested some additional documentation and information to be prepared and submitted as part of our application. And that information included the following. It wanted an updated hazardous communication plan. We have submitted that with this application. A chemical hygiene plan has been submitted with this application. An emergency access action plan has been submitted with this application. There was a question as to whether or not a 2021 Tier 2 report was needed based on our tenants' indication. They said their project it does not fall under a Tier 2 reporting requirement, so therefore we don't believe it needs to be prepared at this time. The MSDS sheets were submitted as part of this application. We have also prepared and submitted the architectural drawings identifying the fire-rated barriers. There are 2 plans that were prepared. There was an HM1 interior and an HM1 exterior that provided that information. They also, on those 2 drawings, we also identified the main accumulation area on site. There was a request made to provide a narrative statement addressing environmental compliance for industrial wastewater compliance. We would like to provide this plan as part of our package to be submitted with the building permit. The reason for this is that the interior design of the building is not advanced enough to be able to prepare those documents at this time. This also holds true for a narrative statement regarding compliance with DEP's air quality regulations. Again, once the architectural team for the tenant and its MEP team get into the design of the building, those design components will be easily identifiable. And the request is that it made sense that those additional narratives be prepared and submitted in conjunction with the architectural plans that will be submitted for a building permit. We have identified the location on the site where there will be emergency generators. And it was on, I think, Nora, if you scroll the plan you have in front down a little bit, I may be able to show you. Here we go. Oh, the word GEN, there are 2 generator locations right here being proposed for those. The bulk gas installation location, that is the small square to the right of the 2 generators being identified on the plan. A request for service agreements with hazardous waste vendors and emergency response contractors. Similar to the statement before, we have no problem providing this information. We just respectfully request if we could provide it when we submit for a building permit application, as those agreements are not identified and fulfilled at this time, due to the design of the interior of the building not being completed at this stage. That also holds true for the plans or a narrative on industrial trucks. The intent was to provide that narrative when we submit plans for the building permit as well. There was a question as to whether or not hydraulic dock levelers will be utilized at this location? And the answer is yes. It should be noted that in the post-construction operation and maintenance plan, we have certain inspection requirements that have been identified for the hydraulic levelers to be done on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis to ensure that those levelers are operating at peak efficiency and to minimize the threat of a spill. And it should be noted, if you can see my cursor right in this location, right here is where the emergency shutoff valve is being proposed on the drain line. The trench drain is here, and it discharges to an existing catch basin in this location. So we are proposing a shutoff valve right here, just right after the trench drain discharge point. The request was made for spill response plans, both interior and exterior. That has been provided in the operation and maintenance plan for the landlord. It is in as Appendix E of the stormwater management report. And for the tenant, which addresses inside the building, it's part of the chemical hygiene plan narrative that has been prepared and submitted as part of this report. The location of the dumpsters and enclosures, again, identify that as on the lower left hand corner at the back of the site. There was another comment about plans for snow removal. We have identified that in the O&M plan. The quantity and location of chemical fume hoods. This has been identified in the chemical hygiene plan that was submitted. Soil testing results were requested for any planned excavation. In our EIDR narrative, we have identified it is intended to utilize on-site materials to the extent that we can. It is anticipated that a small quantity of material may need to be disposed of off-site. We have prepared and submitted a letter from Sandboard Head and Associates, which is the landlord's environmental consultant, that prior to any materials leaving the site, they will be tested by Sandboard Head, and it will be at that point where the appropriate disposal facility will be identified and located and acknowledged as to where it will be disposed of, and all records of any disposal materials will be kept by and logged by Sandboard Head. This also holds true for PCP testing of building materials and transformers. Based on we did include in our supplemental information a narrative prepared by Sandboard Head. They did acknowledge that some of the window caulking on the existing windows had traces of PCB materials in them. So they have prepared a protocol as to how that would be properly managed and disposed of, and I believe that they're overseeing that activity. That will also hold true for the existing electric located inside the building. If there's any removal or upgrade required to those electric equipment, it'll be reviewed by Sandboard Head, and the appropriate measures will be taken to develop a work plan on the proper handling and disposal of that equipment. And one of the other comments made from that, or the last comment made from that November 3rd memo was identification and anticipated staffing plans, on-site EHS and emergency management support. This was submitted and is included in a document that was titled Article 17, Westwood Hazardous Material Bylaw Narrative. So we've acknowledged that piece of it and included those requirements in that piece. So in short, those are the list of changes that were made to the reports and the additional information that was provided at the request of the town. As I mentioned before, right before the holidays, the landlord and tenant met with the Westwood Fire Department to review these documents My understanding is, and I'll let the landlord speak in greater detail as I was not present at that meeting. It indicates, all indications are that the fire department is pleased and comfortable with the information that was submitted. It is acknowledged that should this project obtain all its permits, that additional on-site inspections will be required with the fire department as renovations are performed. And we are in full cooperation with the fire department to provide them with coordinate with them on a regular basis to ensure that they are comfortable. It should be noted that although I didn't speak deeply of the Weston and Sampson comment letter, and the reason for that is because majority of their comments piggybacked onto the beta comments. We did get a second letter from Weston and Sampson that indicated that the supplemental information provided herein addressed their concerns regarding potential threat of contamination to the groundwater system, and all their comments have been adequately addressed. As I mentioned, Beta is on the phone on this call. We believe that we've addressed all of their comments as well, but I will defer to Phil to speak further to that should that need be. So in summary, those are the changes performed in the materials that we have submitted.
Thank you. Nora, I know Phil is here from Beta, and I guess it would be appropriate at this time for him to comment on everything that they issued in their letter, and then also all of comments made by Mr. Dundon. So Phil, are you able to speak? Are you
I am.
with us in that way? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Thanks. Yes, we can hear you. Thanks for being here. And I would like to hear from you about your report, and then also Mr. Dundon's presentation about their comments or their responses to your concerns.
Okay.
You don't have to go through everyone like that, but just in general, maybe some of the things that haven't been addressed.
Right. So, yeah, no, I got a chuckle out of Brian's, in short, he summarized it.
I heard that as well.
That was pretty funny.
I think we
Anyway,
passed in short a while back.
So, no, I think what may be confusing to me is we provided a letter on December 12th. I know we had a meeting sometime after that because you hadn't got this letter, and then I don't recall receiving any additional information after that. So I don't know if I missed an email or whatever, but there's only a couple things that we are really interested in. So as Brian indicated, the site is very challenging relative to infiltration and trying to protect the wells in the area. And it turns out that the soils aren't very conducive to infiltration, which actually helps protect the wells. So I found that a little interesting. We do have to provide some treatment of the runoff to meet the current redevelopment standards that the town has accepted. I believe he's close to that. We just needed a third-party review of the proprietary units that he's using. There are a few things that Brian mentioned that we are deferring to the town, specifically some of the landscape things, some of the existing non-conforming things are continuing to remain. There is a question about whether the auxiliary lot was going to be lighted. There didn't seem to be any lighting for that, and I was just wanted to make sure that everyone's okay with that. I don't, it's not presently lit now, right, Brian?
No, no, it is. There is,
Oh, it
there
is.
is lighting provided on that lot, yes.
Okay. So that wasn't mentioned in the. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know that there's a whole lot. I mean, I can go back through the issues that we defer to the town or the board. If you want to go through those individually, it's up to you.
Sure. Why don't we, for the interest of completeness, why don't we circle to those issues that you think are still unresolved?
Okay.
Are you deferring to us?
Yeah, if you have my letter of December 12th. You know, everybody has that.
Nora, is that the letter? I don't see a date on this.
I can display that.
Yeah, that's, yeah, I've got that up myself.
Okay.
But I don't know about the
Z1,
rest of the members.
yeah.
Nora's
So if
got
you
it
go
up now.
You go down to Z1. It's just the dimensional requirements. So I think Brian mentioned this, the fact that there is an excessive amount of impervious surfaces existing, but they are reducing it. So I don't, again, I don't see an issue with that, but.
Okay. I would ask board members, as Mr. Paradis is going through this, if you take notes on items that you're concerned about, and then we can, when we're in the question period, we can circle back and address those.
So Z7 is the same issue. The 20% of lot area maintained as vegetation area. The project area doesn't meet the minimum requirement. He's asking a waiver for that in Z8.
Just to be clear, waivers are not required. The FMUOD approval can be granted by the board if it's not consistent with the other sections of the zoning bylaw.
Okay. There you go. And the traffic assessment didn't outline any offsite money contribution for offsite improvements. Not sure that is a big concern. EIDR number 9 on page 6.
I'm sorry, what page are you?
6, the bottom of page 6, EIDR 9.
Right, would have passed it.
Right above traffic assessment. Right there. Okay.
I don't think there's a big concern over traffic, but. Sorry, just cruising through here. T4 on page 11 is the parking-ish requirements. So they state that they're gonna have 180 people, so if everyone takes their car to work, you still have 12 spaces for visitors, including the ADA spaces. T8, as Brian mentioned, there's very little area for snow storage. So there will be a requirement to maintain as quickly as possible, the removal of snow from the site, from snow events. So, sure that'll help the operation of the project and the site as well. And Brian mentioned about the railroad, number 10, T10. That they have to coordinate with them. So I don't think that's much of an issue. LA3. So there's supposed to be landscape islands. So as was mentioned, it's limited space for parking. So that's a conflict there, you know. Again, the LA4 is a similar issue. The idea of adding more impervious surface within the parking lot. And as well as LA5, all three, but. Brian just mentioned that there is lighting for the parking lot, auxiliary parking lot. The so that should, I don't know, that they should require a photometric plan for that. I didn't see it, so maybe it was included. I missed it. Yeah, as was mentioned, in SW9, the testing was outside of the zone 1 was shown to indicate that the soils weren't suitable for infiltration. So he's proposing to treat the runoff for 80% TSS removal and 50% phosphorus removal. So that should comply with that. And yeah, we just need an SW12, just the documentation from a third party reviewer for the proposed removal rates for the proprietary BMP. I was not familiar with it, so. Same as SW14. So we're going to defer to the EP. I think I think we concluded during the during our tech meeting in late December there that SW15 is not applicable because it relates to surface water supply and not groundwater supply. So I think we misquoted on that one. And we defer to DWWD anyway. We expect an SW16, a source control and pollution prevention and spill measures be included in the O&M plan. I think the copy we received did not have Appendix E, which was the which I believe was supposed to contain that. SW21 is a typical condition that we recommend to provide this final signed stormwater pollution prevention plan to the planning board prior to the pre-construction meeting. And as Brian mentioned, we do want to update the wattle detail to use a minimum of 12-inch diameter wattle, SW22. I think that's probably it. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Phil.
Yep.
So Nora, to kind of wrap this up, if we could, before we go to board questions, is there anything, staff comments or something you'd like to help connect dots or fill in the gaps?
Sure. The only staff comments we were received today from the fire chief, and let me display those for you to see. So it was actually the deputy fire chief, Robert Kilroy, sent these comments today. The fire department has now met with the 24M team a few times regarding the fire and life safety measures to ensure this building is not only safe but up to code. In conversation, the staff is very receptive to our recommendations and requirements. The building currently has a fire department radio box and will immediately notify us when an alarm. 24M plans on keeping this with the addition of third-party monitoring for redundancy. The building will have a sprinkler system adhering to current codes. Private hydrants exist around the building, so we consulted with the 24M team on how to annually test those. Dedham Westwood Water runs down Dartmouth Street, so they will be able to connect as well. The lab space, flammable storage, and chemical storage will be on exterior walls of the building with exit doors. These will all be placarded with as much signage as possible. Some of these rooms will require thicker walls based on codes. Our fire department requested that an entry vestibule have all the necessary information needed if an emergency occurs. Within this vestibule, we would like a fire alarm remote annunciator panel to let us know where the emergency exits in the building. We would like detailed maps, emergency contact numbers, and MSDS paperwork available. Also, we requested remote gas detector panels to show us if any chemicals have off-gassed, so that we have that information prior to entry. The 24M team has also offered to provide training to our department, as well as neighboring towns, on safe responses and practices around lithium-ion technology. We have a similar arrangement with another company in town that offers to train our members once a year on responding to their facility for a hazmat incident. The fire department has no problem with communications with the 24M team and look forward to working with them on this project.
Okay. So that's it for staff comments. Anything else you'd like to add on this?
Just
That's
that
been
we've
presented.
had this project reviewed by the planning board's peer review consultants from Beta, by the Dedham Westwood Water District's peer review consultants from Weston and Sampson, and by the fire department, and all have recommended approval with conditions. So if the board feels that they're ready to consider a motion, I can display a recommended motion. If the board feels that they're not ready and needs more information, or they wish to wait for the fifth member to be available, you can consider continuing this to your next meeting on January 24th. However, if you are ready to vote, I think the applicant would like to get started on the project as soon as possible. So a sooner approval probably would be better, more to their liking.
All right, thank you. So at this point, we'll put it out to board members who have questions and or concerns from the applicant, or questions for Phil from Beta, or obviously to Nora for clarity. Any board members with questions?
Hey, Chris, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, good.
So I guess first and foremost, I want to thank you guys for doing all that hard work and response. I love to see the comments from the fire department and the communications there. That's great. I think that goes a long way to assuage some people's sort of fears about, some potential hazardous materials in the area. I also was really excited that you guys took the recommendation to look for PCBs in the building materials and ran with that. I'm glad that you guys found that so that we didn't have any potential infiltration into our wells there. And that's sort of why we do this, right? Start these conversations. Maybe it's not something that we would have thought of. So it's a very good example of a collaborative working relationship. I did notice that some of your chemical inventory wasn't complete that you submitted. I noticed like quantities were associated with, I don't know, maybe about 20%. Was that because those were the ones that were going to have any type of substantive presence on site, or is there a rationale behind that?
Thank you. Through the chair, there are additional details about the actual amount and quantities that are going to be actually provided on the actual site. What we tried to do sort of from a systematic perspective was to try to be as comprehensive as possible about potential. I don't know if it's Claudio or someone else from the 24M team that could elaborate in more detail about the plans, but our intention would be to update that list prior to actually operation.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see anything in terms of volumes that you listed as egregious that I'd be super worried about. I just wanted to understand why there was some volumes for some and not for others.
So is there someone, I don't know if Tyler or Tim or Claudio, that could just talk in a little bit more detail? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that. Without having the list directly in front of me, some of the materials, we have a very good understanding of our consumption rate, and hence why there are numbers associated with those. As Brian Dugdale just indicated, when we reached out to our advanced research team, we wanted to cast a very, very wide net. So we said, list everything you might be interested in using. I suspect, again, without having the list in front of me, those are the materials where you don't have those volumes indicated. That is information we are happy to provide as we proceed down this path.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's sort of what I assumed, that like process development or whomever, that's a sort of wish list type of stuff, or they might use one off, but nothing you'd be storing in bulk.
Exactly.
Yep. The reality for me, the major chemical of concerns realistically ends up being the water reactives that you'd have on site, just because there is that potential there, right? Like your MAQs are all limited pretty tightly because of the issues associated with that. So, that's the type of stuff that I wanted to look at and have a understanding of. So thank you. Another thing that I saw actually in the fire department's response, that you guys would be installing, or were asked to install, gas detectors. What type of gas detectors are you planning on installing? Like LELs or oxygen, or?
Yeah, so we're still working through exactly what we want to install there, but the two you just mentioned are probably top of the list, certainly based on my experience, and really that discussion with Captain Kilroy and his peers, was really, they want to be able to have information from a distance, right? So the request was to put an output from those types of monitors right next to the fire panel in the main entrance, or wherever we end up locating it. So when they arrive on site and are responding to an incident, they have that information available to them from a distance. So I think that's something we'll work collaboratively with Westwood Fire on to make sure we're meeting, we're providing them with the information they would like to have at their fingertips when they arrive on site.
Yep, for sure. One last sort of comment question. I guess this is partially for Beta as well. The generators that I had asked about did appear, and they're ground mounted. I guess that folds into a couple of questions. First, noise. The previous noise assessment was done. Did that take into account noise from the generator runs? I'll stop there for a second.
The noise stuff did, to the best of my knowledge, it did not. So it's always, I guess from where I sit on the site, part of it is that we understand there are certain noise decibel levels that we can't exceed. We don't intend to exceed those. And if noise mufflers or whatnot need to be put on that equipment, we will do, I guess, what we need to do to ensure that we are not exceeding the noise level requirements for this area.
Easy enough. Yeah, there's enclosures, there's mufflers, there's a
Yep.
number of things that you can do. I guess the only other concern with the generators would be if they were diesel. That would be problematic given where it's located. Is there any way that we can commit, if we're gonna have those generators, that they be natural gas?
I'm gonna need some assistance from 24M to defer to.
Hello? Yeah,
Yeah.
at this time, we are still working through options, but we can commit that until we fully close the design. So far, our base plan is to take all the measures required to mitigate spill. At this point in time, they are actually diesel. But taking all the measures into account to make sure that the spill containments are correct and the basins for each one of those and the process to actually load them are actually adequate to make sure that none of those put in danger any of the process that we are discussing here.
Yeah.
It's worth to notice that those generators are not for normal operation. It's basically only for the case that we have a major outage. And the base case, it's to supply some of the processes, not all of them. So that's why the size is not considerable neither.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, that is important information for us to know, right? And to be able to evaluate. So, you know, I think it is important that we understand that. I guess we don't necessarily need to know it right now, especially since there's remedies for that, but like that could change the conversation around the SPCC. Like, you know, there's no, it's just belly tanks, right? There's no USTs that we're gonna need. All right, so I'm seeing Stephen saying no, but just want to confirm.
Yeah, actually, because of these are only emergency ones, we are not counting with diesel tanks outside of the basin of the generator itself. And that's basically that's gonna be the measure number one of containment. We are not planning to use them unless it's necessary, which would be on over a major power outage.
Yep. So we're talking about something like 1,000 gallons of diesel, 500 gallon ASTs.
It should be a little bit less than that. I need to confirm the final number, but it should be. It will not be more than that.
Okay.
Our design partners are in the process of kind of speccing those out for us. I mean, it should be soon, but it hasn't been quite done quite yet. But we were not planning on storage tanks, like the underground storage tanks, like you were saying.
Okay.
Yeah. So the basin of the generator will not be more than 300 gallons.
Okay. Well, thank you both for that information. And I guess the last question, and this is procedural more for Nora. In the bylaws, it mentions the Zoning Board of Appeals a lot for special permit uses, which this appears to be. Is that correct? And can we approve this?
So under most conditions, any development within a water resource protection overlay district has to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit. However, whenever an applicant applies for a flexible multiple use overlay district special permit, the planning board takes the place of every other approval authority, including takes the place of the zoning board. So yes, you can approve this. I would just point out with the discussion that you just had that the Dedham Westwood Water District was strongly opposed to anything other than propane for generators in the University Station project, and I would think they would feel the same way. So if the proposal is for diesel, I don't think that was clear from the plans. I don't think Weston and Sampson understood that in writing their report, or I think it would have been brought up. They were very detailed in fertilizer and salt use.
Salt, yeah, everything.
I don't think they would permit diesel. So that's one area that I would think needs further study.
I think that would be, I mean, if we wanted to get it approved, if all things were equal and the applicant was willing to make some sort of concessions on that, I think that would go a long way, because I do see that as problematic for a number of people. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Josh. Ellen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, actually, I think Josh may have just hit on that, but I have concerns about diesel fuel within the water resource area. But I guess that was my question is, with that new piece of information that hasn't been reviewed by Dedham Westwood Water District, kind of knowing what their feeling was about that prior, is that something that we should wait for Dedham Westwood to weigh in on, or knowing their previous precedent, can we put a condition in the terms and just address it that way?
So you could do either. You could either make a condition that there can be no diesel on site and that the generators would have to be run by propane, or you could defer till your next meeting and give them a chance to weigh in. I think either
Okay.
option would work.
Thank you.
I mean, it could also be natural gas, too, right? It doesn't have to be propane,
Yes.
but just
Yes.
non-diesel fuel source.
All right, any other board members with questions or concerns? Hey, Phil.
Can I just ask a few questions?
Sure.
I am interested in knowing what's the security. I noted you had third-party monitoring on the fire issue. Do you have 24-hour security? And if so, what's their training or their understanding as to emergency procedures?
I'm happy to take that if you'd like.
Sure.
So as you mentioned, third-party monitoring does include much more than just fire. So that's video, that's door access, glass breaks, that sort of thing. We're still finalizing what our security plan would be. One of those items that we were evaluating is whether or not that will include a manned presence or not. That said, whether remote monitoring, manned, or a combination of the two, security staff will be trained to the same response procedures that our internal employees are trained to. So that would be appropriate notification of authorities if we're talking about a hazmat incident, relaying appropriate information to 911 dispatch, and then if manned on site, meeting with the responding team from Westwood Fire or the surrounding communities to relay information to them, as well as notifying 24M staff as well.
So now tie me into, because I was also had written a note to myself, and then Josh kind of jumped on the gas detectors that you earlier had mentioned. Is this third-party monitoring going to be able to have information flowing to it 24 hours? If not, is the network and the connection and communication system envisioned for gas detectors? So it's not just something that, I mean, obviously you have a fire, you have something that's obvious from a video feed. That's one thing. It's something that's different if it's a gas detector notification. Give me a little bit more on that, because I was looking for a lot of that and I didn't see much discussion on any of that.
Certainly, yeah. So we haven't defined that plan per se, but I will say our experience has been in our existing facilities, those types of sensors are tied into a remote monitoring system that notifies multiple parties. So for example, we have a gas storage room where we store nitrogen cylinders that has oxygen monitoring in that space. If that alarm triggers, there are multiple people, myself included, who are going to get a ping on their cell phone. They're going to get an automated email for particular alarms. They're going to get a call out directly, either automated or from a manned guard. So that's it. The point is, this is something that will go out remotely. It's not strictly a local alarm.
Okay. And I assume then that's also going to tie into the town, because there's going to be some training for the fire, et cetera, to be also made aware of it automatically. Is that fair to say?
I actually do not know what their capability it is to receive such a signal. Obviously, they would have that information locally when they arrive. That's part of why we want to mount it remotely in the building, so not at the source of the incident, but remote from that. That is certainly something we would want to work through with Westford Fire and any of the surrounding towns to see if that's an an option that they want to see and something that we could provide. Once you have the sensors in place, it's fairly easy to push that signal to different parties. It's just giving them the right information to make a decision based on that signal.
Okay, I assume you've had some history with remote monitoring in Cambridge. Is that fair
Correct.
to say?
Yes.
And are you envisioning who's the vendor, and are you envisioning maintaining that relationship at the University Station location?
I don't believe we have a vendor selected for that at this time. Claudia, we haven't identified a provider for this at this time, correct?
No, we haven't. And actually, because of geographical locations, might not be the same that we use in Cambridge.
Okay, that was actually, then that ties into another question, because I was looking at your table on the incidents, preventive controls, tactical response, etc., and it activates the environmental service contractor. Is that the same or someone different that you're talking about? Who, or do you know who have you selected or identified a likely environmental service contractor if there is an incident?
Yeah, it's a different party. Technically, it's we have two providers for this that we utilize in Cambridge. That also ties back to, there was a comment originally circulated about service agreements for this type of service.
Right.
Obviously, we need to work through providing those service contracts and finalizing them for this site. Again, I think as Brian Dungden summarized, once we have our interior design finalized, that's when we can really kick off that discussion with those providers and start providing them with training as well.
Okay. In the preventive controls section, you detailed that employee training is also employed. Is that all employees, select employees? Is there continuous or is it a one-time training in terms of incident response?
So incident response is going to be tailored based on an individual's responsibilities within the organization. So for example, our CFO isn't going to learn what to do in terms of a chemical spill response if he happens to be on the floor. It's unlikely. One of our battery scientists or myself or some of our technicians or engineers will be trained to a very different level on how to respond. Depending on the topic, that's either usually minimum an annual retraining requirement as well as an initial training requirement. It's something we touch on pretty frequently within 24M, part of our culture, something that's touched on in quarterly company-wide meetings. We review safety statistics and touch on potential incidences and communicate out to various groups whether retraining is going to be required. So I would say retraining is certainly part of our culture. For some of these requirements, as I suspect Josh may be familiar with, there's a regulatory requirement to retrain folks on an annual basis at minimum.
Well, that was part of my question. Even though Josh knows more than I was wondering if it was anticipated there would be, periodic, whether annual or whatnot, which I was anticipating was going to be the expectation. Okay, I was very pleased with the touch upon the impervious area impact. Can you just where are my notes on that? Okay, if there's a net decrease. Was that Brian? Can you just touch upon that again?
Yeah, yes. So when you take both the main lot and the remote lot, it as assume one lot for a minute. 89% of that lot is devoted to impervious surfaces, which is comprised of buildings and pavement. When the renovations and the upgrades that we are proposing on the update will reduce that to 86. So therefore, what we've done is we've taken about, long story short, is about 7,300 square feet of pavement that is there today will be converted to landscape open space in the future, should, the board decide to approve this application.
Okay. I noted on just briefly on the traffic that longer queuings are anticipated in the afternoon during the evening commute. And tell me, I saw that with the Dedham Street project, but it seemed to gloss over a little bit how that was going to impact traffic. Can someone just address that, particularly where there's already an anticipated longer queuing in the evening portion of the traffic study?
Yeah, unfortunately, our traffic consultant had another meeting, you had a conflict, but I'm referring to the response that we prepared, which is on page 8 of 21.
8 of 21, hold on.
It's response T-2.
Okay, go ahead.
So, this analyzed traffic flow and impacts once the northbound ramp is operational.
Yeah.
So the question was, consider whether the stated projects may affect the overall conclusions of this assessment. Our response was, with the completion of the Mass DOT's Dedham Street I-95 interchange reconstruction project, additional capacity will be created along the Dedham Street corridor, and a new off-ramp from I-95 north to Dedham Street will be constructed. As a result of the completion of these improvements, it is expected that there will be an increase in northbound traffic on University Ave between Dedham Street and Blue Whale Drive, and a decrease in the southbound traffic along all other portions of University Ave. These potential changes relate to the project, and the findings of the August 22nd report is expected that trips arriving to the project will be more evenly distributed along the University Ave corridor due to the ability for trips arriving to the area on I-95 from the south to use the new off-ramp to Dedham Street. The result will be a reduction in the project-related left traffic turning left from University Ave to Dartmouth Street, and a corresponding increase in traffic turning right from University Ave to Dartmouth Street. This change in the directional distribution of project-related traffic would not change the findings that were presented in the August traffic study as they relate to the project, which concluded that the project would be less impactful on the transportation infrastructure when compared to the impacts that are associated with the existing office building that occupies the project site.
Okay, now, because I read that, now tell me why. Why are you, because I see the southbound, I get what you're saying, but I didn't necessarily come to the same conclusion. Tell me, but I'm not a traffic expert, but I'm
Right.
trying to.
So right now, under the existing condition, assuming the ramp wasn't there, you would have a longer, in order to get to the site, you're going down to University Ave, you're coming back up University Ave, and then you're taking the left. Right now, you're taking that left turn movement from University Ave down Dartmouth Street.
Right.
So what he's saying is that movement is now going to be less, and it's going to be offset by instead of having to wait, because that intersection, I believe, is unsignalized, if I remember it right. So you're waiting for the signals to get your gaps to take the left turn in, as opposed to if you're coming from the new ramp, it's just a slide, it's a right turn. Too many of the movements. I think where you see the long queues is when you're leaving the site on the evening hours. It's really the left turn movement from Dartmouth Street onto University Ave that would be delayed. And that's really just employee traffic waiting to leave during that time.
I guess it struck me, isn't northbound going to be increased, which is more likely your existing employee base is more likely to be north as compared to the D being offset on the southbound?
Would the northbound be increased? Well, the
northbound would be increased, correct?
The traffic from if you were coming from Rhode Island up 95 north, you would get off at the Dedham Street
Right.
new ramp, and then take the left, and then the right down to University Ave.
Okay. Okay. I'll go back and look again. I didn't see the conclusion that you were drawing, and maybe I'm just missing the point, but that was one of the things that I was interested in. Let me just see if I have anything else. I just want to just check my notes for one moment. No, I'm good, Chris.
Okay.
I've gotten my answers pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Phil. I just had a couple comments and just a few questions. First off, my two concerns from this project were the hazardous waste, and I'm convinced that we are we've gone through this already down there with the Brigham. I believe we have good procedures in place. I'm convinced, seeing your report, seeing Beta's comments, that we're in a very good place with regard to mitigating any possible catastrophes that may happen there. My second concern was fire. Given the nature of your product, I think everyone would acknowledge this type of fire is not something that our fire department would see all the time. So I'm encouraged by all of the acknowledgements of our own fire department of things they want to see, and then also the steps being taken by the applicant to help make sure that they are ready and that there's good communication between the two should anything should any fire occur or anything like that. That being said, obviously everyone has their own concerns. This is obviously part of our water resource area, but I feel good in the direction we're headed with mitigating these things. Lot 2, Brian, if you could, we briefly touched on it, and it was just revealed that there is currently lighting there in Lot 2. Can you speak to the nature of those types of lights, and are they going to differ from the types of lights that are being installed in Lot 1? Are they LED, for example? Are they on a timer? Are they manual?
Yeah, so lot 2 has two existing light poles within the center of the parking field that lights that. It is on a timer-based system, we believe, at this point. And what the proposal was is right now the proposal is to leave it as is. It's operating, it's functioning, it lights the area. There's zero light spillage onto abutting properties. And we focused on the upgrades being around the main lot, which would be new lighting because of the improvements that we make to make the parking lot efficient. We were forced to relocate some of the poles, which then in turn said, hey, it didn't make sense. Let's put in new LED fixtures, and we'll supplement that with wall-mounted fixtures along the I'm calling the north and south side, both sides of the building that abut the railroad lines at that point. But yeah, the remote lot or lot 2, we were intending to reuse the existing infrastructure that exists.
Nora, do we have any information on what those lights are and if they do follow our standards?
I can see on the GIS map that there are 2 freestanding fixtures. I believe they're compliant. They seem to be the right angle. I don't think they're LED lights, and perhaps at some time in the future they'll be replaced with LED lights, but I don't have any concerns about those lights remaining in place.
Okay, thank you. It was just some topic that was just touched on, so I wanted to explore a little deeper into that. The snow plan, it had been mentioned that there's what appears to be probably less than adequate space for snow storage. Is this a situation where they could kind of piggyback off of what is happening in University Station and that snow removal?
Yeah, so I think what many of the properties down there do is they actually remove the snow if it exceeds their storage capacity. And I would expect that would be the same thing that would be
Okay.
done here.
Is the applicant prepared for that type of response to heavy snow? Brian?
Yes, in fact, Mr. Chairman, it's written into the snow management section of the post-construction O&M plan. We've recognized the minimal space we have and are fully prepared to have it disposed off-site.
Okay. On the comments made by the fire department, it indicates that there is currently existing a fire department radio box. And they don't make any other reference to it, so I assume they're okay with it. But can you speak to how old this might be, and would an update be needed to this particular device? They were leading with this, so it seems fairly important to them.
I would, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to defer to, because I was not present at that meeting, so I don't want to speak out of turn. If I could defer
Okay. Is there anyone? Yeah.
to
That
Bob.
knows about that?
I think Bob and Deglia, maybe
Yeah,
you could comment on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually gonna defer this to Joe, if he can. He's our specialist on this.
Yeah, can the question be repeated, please? Sorry.
I was just mentioning that the fire department acknowledged that there already exists a fire department radio box, and I'm
Yes.
just curious as to its age, and is there a possible upgrade needed in the near future?
So we don't have records of the age of the existing radio box that the fire department has. That said, we do test it yearly for function. Fire department's very quick to remind us if there's anything out of the norm with that monitor. It will likely be reevaluated at the time that we are getting our fire alarm system signed off. So if there needs to be a replacement, it'll be done at that time, and it'll be included with the final testing and inspection that goes along with the fire department's final sign off.
Yeah, I would imagine if they're not happy with it, they're going to ask you to replace it. So I was just curious. I didn't mean for it to go down the whole ladder here, but I just wanted to ask that one question. So just a couple more fairly simple questions. What's the hours of operation of this facility?
Yeah, I can take that one.
Sure.
So our current operation is we run 2 shifts from 6 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. So I think it's 6 to 2:30 and 2 to 10:30. That's currently our intention with this facility.
Do you have any other facilities that operate through the night?
Not currently, no.
Okay. And the other question I had was, is the intention that all employees who are working in Cambridge, or all who choose to, are going to be now working in Westwood? So there would be already experienced in the fire mitigation and emergency response, and they would at least have some training already. Was my question about the specific employees, and that we wouldn't be looking at a whole group of new employees that know nothing about this.
Yeah, that's a good question. So currently we have, I think, around 160 employees. We wrote, right, we want to have around 180. So our plan is to ultimately bring everybody from Cambridge to Westwood. It'll probably be kind of a phased move, so we can continue some operation in Cambridge, while not experiencing a big shutdown of activity. But ultimately, yes, everybody who's trained today will move to Westwood. So we're not bringing in a fully new employee base. We will leverage the same group that we have today and grow, a little bit more from where we are today.
Okay. And are the shifts roughly 50-50 of personnel? Are they heavy in the morning?
So they're roughly 50-50, but Tyler, maybe you can comment on it, that the shifts are, only on the operations team. So it's between 10 and 15 people per shift. Direct labor working on those shifts.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's a lot of indirect labor that works, more like a standard work day, 7 to 8 to 5 or 6.
I was alluding more to getting to more of the parking. How many people say 9 to 5 are going to be there? And I know there will be some till 10:30, but from the parking perspective, or are many leaving at 2:30?
Yeah, so about 15-ish would leave at 2:30, and then from 3 to, I would say, 7 p.m. it'll kind of be a rolling exodus from the facility of the people working a standard work day.
And some people filtering in for the evening shift?
Yeah, about 15 at 2.
Okay. Again, I was thinking more how it relates to the parking and the car count and things like that. That's why I asked the question.
We do, and so the numbers we gave, right, are basically assuming that everybody drives their own car.
Yeah.
We want to encourage the use of the commuter rail, as well as carpooling, right? So we do have a lot of people that live in the Cambridge area that we expect will commute via public transportation too. So that would affect those numbers, the driving numbers as well.
Nora, this falls outside of University Station, but there was, when developing that project, there is some type of a ride share system, is there not?
Yes.
Already established?
Yeah, so that project has transportation demand management conditions that are required that all the employers in the area participate with the Neponset Valley Regional Transportation Authority. I don't think it's a requirement in FMUOD, but it's always encouraged, and we can give the applicants contact information.
It seems like it's appropriate for especially a sizable employer to come in to make them known of this benefit that's available to their employees. That's it for me, for my questions for tonight. Nora, where would we like to go from here?
So I do have a draft motion if you'd like to take a look at that, but it's a public hearing. So if you'd like to open it up to public comments first.
Right. So we do have one comment that I see in the Q&A, and I'll read it. It's from Fran Fusco, and it looks like she has 5 questions. So the applicant, just whoever feels they're most appropriate to respond, please do. And I'll read them one at a time and we'll respond. Number 1, what is the distance from the water wells to the closest point to the building? Not sure if we have site plan available with that information, or someone have that information?
Mr. Chairman, if you let me, if you excuse me for a minute, I can be able to get a scale and give you that dimension. Just excuse me for a minute.
Yeah, and why don't I read number 2 while he's retrieving that information? You mentioned potential spills. How much lithium and/or hazardous materials will be on site, and what are they? We need to know all the chemicals on site. So I believe there was a list that was that Josh spoke to, that it didn't have. Is that what she's referring to?
Yes, there's a list of materials and quantities, and that's required to be submitted not only as part of this application, but submitted to the Board of Health as well for hazardous materials approval prior to occupancy.
And is that list available on our website?
It's in the meeting packet.
Okay, and that's available on the website?
It is. For
residents, okay. So Ms. Fusco, I believe you can find that list. We're not going to read the entire list this evening, but it's available to you. Number 3, what happens if lithium hazardous waste gets into our water wells and ecosystems?
What do you think happens?
Good evening, Mr. Ahern.
Yes. It depends on the nature of the spill and the size of the spill.
Lithium ignites, so that's what happens to that.
Yeah, but you know, it all depends on the spill and the size and the quantity. So that's something that can't be answered tonight.
Okay. Brian, did you have the answer for number one yet, or do you need some
I
more
did,
time?
Mr. Chairman. It's about 300 feet from the well house to the nearest point on the existing structure.
300 feet. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the list, number 4, has 24M in the past had any spills, leaks, etc.?
I can answer that. The short answer is no. I do want to point out that in regulatory language, these are referred to as releases to environment. If that does occur and it's reportable, that's public information. So you could also search that and verify what I'm telling you is true. But we have had no releases to environment.
Okay, thank you. And the final question, with all the concessions you are requesting, what about putting solar on the roof? Has that been considered?
I can at least jump in here, Tim, if you want to take it. But we have looked at it. There is some challenges around the existing roof structure, you know, adding that to the building. So it's not really on the table at this time, but it is something we've looked at.
Okay.
Yeah, but Stephen, I think that's right for our initial assessment, but ultimately, I mean, it's something we do want to do. But it's not off the table in the future, right? But for this initial plan, we're not planning to install solar.
Would it make sense to install things that would allow it solar ready to make it even easier in the future, where just the panels go up so you make all the connection points? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just wondering if that's something you would, like when we're building a new building, they make it solar ready. So they put all the conduits basically in there. So it's very easy to in the future. But this is an existing building. I understand it's a little different there. If Tim is speaking, he's muted. Okay.
Chris, I'll
Yeah.
jump in. I mean, Mike Terry,
Yeah.
for 24M. I don't think they're right to undertake that, you know, as a condition of the permits we're seeking. But I mean, they are in the, you know, that business. You know, they're certainly in the energy business, the energy storage business, so they understand and they appreciate that technology. But we're not prepared at this point to promise anything.
Okay.
And I apologize. Tim did say he was having some trouble with his connection, but I can say, you know, our team has explored it. You know, there is a desire, as Tim said, to do something long term. I think, as you said, to put in and make it ready. The biggest challenges around it is just making sure that, you know, you think of it being ready as just installing the roof panels on, or the solar panels on the roof itself. Is just making sure that the infrastructure there structurally is there to support that additional weight and load.
Sure.
And that is probably the biggest challenge, but we'll continue to evaluate that as we complete the design.
All right, thank you. I don't see any more questions from the public. I'll give them a few seconds more. In the meantime, I'll ask if any board members have come up with any follow-up questions or anything jump to your mind from conversations we've had since you've asked your question. Now would be a good time to ask. And I can't see all board members at once, so if you're raising your hand, just chime right in. If you're all set, that's fine too.
Chris.
Okay.
Brian Dugdale.
Oh, sorry. I see
I'm
5
not a
people
board
at
member.
once. That's it. Yes.
Not a board member, but thank you through the chair.
fine.
I just wanted to confirm that we are willing to accept as a condition, no diesel generators involved in the project at all. So I just wanted to respond to that particular comment. That is a condition that we'd be prepared to accept tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd also just like to remind the board that this is a special permit that requires 4 affirmative votes for issuance, and you have 4 members tonight. So if the 4 members feel ready to vote, I can display motions. The first motion would be for the waiver that's requested on the project size, and then I have a motion with several conditions. I've taken notes as you've spoken, and one of the conditions will specifically take into account all comments made in the Beta memo, the Weston and Sampson memo, the deputy fire chief's comments, and then anything further discussed tonight, so that you'll capture everything that was brought up and make sure it's addressed before occupancy.
Okay, so I guess what we'll do is we'll put it to board members if you're comfortable. If you're uncomfortable taking a vote tonight, then I suppose now would be the time to say so. And it's fine if you feel we need more time to explore this, but we're going to give everyone the opportunity to, I guess, say if they're comfortable taking a vote this evening or not. So if you'd like to continue this, then please say so. If not, we'll presume that you're okay to vote tonight.
I guess, hi, Chris, sorry. My only thought, and I'm not sure where I fall on this, I'm curious what other people think, is since we are missing a member kind of unexpectedly, and this is kind of a big project, I'm not sure, like, do we want to have that 5th member's input as well? Or are we as a group collectively okay moving forward without hearing any additional input from the 5th member?
For me, I went through, I thought it was a lot of materials, a lot of information. I'm okay with going forward, but if others want to defer, because we are short a member, I'm okay with that, but I'm okay with a vote.
Given, you know, the amount of effort that 24M has put in with addressing the concerns, the voluminous amount of response, the willingness to accept some of the additional conditions that we're putting on them, you know, I'd be comfortable moving forward tonight. I mean, time holds for no man or woman in this case.
I also would be comfortable moving forward. I want to make sure, Nora, obviously with 4 of us, we need 100% yes. There's no room for a no to move forward. So I just want to make sure that the applicant would be comfortable with that.
And that's if Ellen, I'm just going to jump in again. I'm okay, but if Ellen has concerns, then it may be a deferral because it is a 2 or 3 week deferral. But I'm okay with going forward. It's up to it. We'll go to Ellen, your comfort level.
Yeah, let me be clear. My question wasn't in any way reflective of my personal opinion on the project. I had concerns when 24M came to us initially. That was a lot of material, and I agree with what everyone said, that you have taken the time and put the thought in to addressing everything we asked of you. So I feel like you've done your due diligence, and I'm okay with that. I just wasn't sure whether or not we felt we wanted to have the input from the 5th member. But if everyone else is comfortable moving forward with us 4, I am too.
So with that,
I respect that. I would, I think we've gone through, I think this has been a very well vetted application. So I would feel comfortable again. So Nora, why don't you go ahead and read that and we'll see how that plays out with the motion.
all right, well, the first motion is very straightforward. It's just a waiver of one item, the 10-acre minimum project size requirement in section 9.5.9.1. that would be waived to allow a project of 6.9 acres.
I'll jump in and try. I hereby move that the planning board grant the following waiver in association with the application for the flexible multiple use overlay District 1, FMUOD 1 special permit for the proposed 24M lithium ion battery research and development facility at 26 Dartmouth Street, as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed with the office of the town clerk on October 25, 2022. Number one, waiver of the 10-acre minimum project size requirement pursuant to section 9.5.9.1 of the Westwood zoning bylaw to allow for a project size of 6.9 acres.
I second the motion.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this waiver topic? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Josh?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
I vote aye also. So that waiver is passed.
All right, so now I have a proposed motion for approval. This has 20 individual conditions, or actually I think it has 21 individual conditions. So I would recommend, if someone's interested in making the motion, as you go through the conditions, if anyone has a concern, perhaps interrupt and discuss those individual conditions.
Hearing no one else jumping in.
Anyone?
I mean, I'll go unless anybody else wants to try.
I'll go.
Go ahead, all yours.
I move that the planning board find that the beneficial effects of the project will outweigh any adverse impacts on the town or the neighborhood in view of the particular characteristics of the site and of the project in relation to that site, in that the uses allowed are in harmony with the general purpose and intent of section 9.5 of the zoning bylaw, and grant the requested flexible multiple use overlay district 1 FMUOD 1 special permit consolidated with the water resource protection overlay district WRPOD and environmental impact and design review approval for the proposed 24M lithium ion battery research and development facility at 26 Dartmouth Street, as described in the application, therefore submitted to the planning board and filed in the office of the town clerk on October 25th, 2022, as supplemented. Subject to the following conditions. Number one, except as modified by the conditions and findings hereof, the project shall comply with the project plans in all respects, and the applicant shall pursue completion of the project with reasonable diligence and continuity. Number two, if the project or any condition imposed in this decision requires any other permit, license, or other approval from any board or commission or any agency of the town of Westwood or other regulatory agency of the Commonwealth or the federal government, the applicant shall make an appropriate application for the same and shall obtain all required approvals prior to the start of any work. If any condition of such permit, license, or other approval from any other board, committee, or agency is inconsistent with this decision, the applicant shall make application to the planning board for an amendment of this decision, and the planning board shall consider such application in accordance with the requirements of MGL Chapter 40A 9 and all applicable planning board rules and regulations. Number three, any proposed alterations, modifications, deletions, or changes to the FMUOD special permit shall be requested in writing to the town planner and the building commissioner prior to implementation. Proposed alterations which are considered de minimis by the building commissioner may be accepted as a note to the file. Proposed alterations which are considered minor by the building commissioner shall require the filing of an application of modification of FMUOD special permit for review by the planning board at a publicly posted planning board meeting. Proposed alterations which are determined to be major by the building commissioner or by the planning board shall be considered by the planning board as a formal amendment to the FMUOD special permit and will require a new public hearing before the planning board. Number four, prior to obtaining to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall obtain approval of the final pedestrian route plans by the planning board or the town planner. In connection with the foregoing, the applicant shall continue working with CSX to develop a safe pedestrian route across the railroad tracks, similar to that shown on submitted sidewalk plans, to the extent practicable and subject to CSX's approval of the same.
Here.
Number 5,
Uh,
the applicant shall submit a fully revised set of site plans and updated operations and maintenance plans, O&M plan, addressing all remaining comments in the memorandum from Philip F. Paradise Jr. PE of Beta Group Inc. to Town of Westwood Planning Board dated December 12, 2022, and in the memorandum from Michael Warner PE and Nicholas Lewis EIT of Weston and Sampson to Blake Lucas and Steve Locke of Dedham Westwood Water District dated December 22, 2022. And in staff comments from the Deputy Fire Chief received on January 3rd, 2023, and all revisions required by the Planning Board at the January 3rd, 2023 Planning Board meeting. Said fully revised set of site plans shall be reviewed by the town planner and approved if consistent with all of the above. Number 6, the applicant shall submit a stormwater pollution prevention plan, SWPPP, for review and approval by the town planner and consulting town engineer prior to the issuance of a building permit for the project. Number 7, all project-related construction activities shall comply with the timeframe set forth in the town's general bylaws, Chapter 292 for noise and construction, which allows such work Monday through Saturday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and Sunday between the hours of 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. Number 8, all trucks carrying earth material to or from 26 Dartmouth shall be required to access the property via University Ave, and no trucks associated with the project shall be permitted to travel on any non-arterial road in Westwood. Number 9, any trucks delivering or removing material shall be covered as to prevent said material from spilling onto the public roadway, and any spilled material shall be cleaned from Dartmouth Street, University Ave, and any other roadways traveled in the transport of earth material to and from the site. Number 10, the existing pavement Dartmouth Street shall be protected from damage from loading and unloading of material and or equipment related to the proposed construction. Number 11, there shall be no substandard or hazardous fill material used with this project. Prior to the import of any earth material, the applicant shall submit certification to the town planner and building commissioner from the company providing said material, stating that the material does not contain any hazardous material. Number 12, all chemicals used during construction shall be located in a designated containment area outside of Zone 1 of the Water Resource Protection Overlay District, WRPOD, and shall be located on an impervious surface designed to prevent the discharge of contaminated runoff into the soil or groundwater. Number 13, the applicant shall promptly repair any damage which the applicant or its agents cause to sidewalks, street pavement, signs, or other fixtures or features within the public right-of-way after first obtaining permission from the Town Department of Public Works or Massachusetts Department of Public Works. Such repairs shall be performed to Town of Westwood standards. Number 14, all landscaping approved herein shall be installed at the earliest possible date, but only during the spring growing season running from April 15th through June 15th, or during the fall growing season running from September 15th through November 15th. Any plantings that do not survive shall be replaced in kind in perpetuity at the property owner's expense. Number 15, all proposed dumpsters, compactors, trash and recycling containers, generators, gas tanks, electrical switchgear, electric transformers, and similar features shall be fully screened from view by gated solid enclosures constructed of wood, stone, brick, or similar materials, and shall not include chain link fencing. Dumpsters, compactors, trash and recycling containers shall have an impermeable lid or cover integral to the dumpster, compactor, or container itself, shall be located on an impervious surface designed to prevent the discharge of contaminated runoff or leachate into the soil or groundwater. Gates shall be closed and fastened at all times other than active loading and or unloading of trash and or recycling materials. Could you Number 16, no landscape chemicals shall be used and no snow storage shall be permitted within zone 1 of the WRPOD. Number 17, no diesel fuel shall be used or stored within zone 1 of the WRPOD. All generators shall be operated with propane, natural gas, or another means that is acceptable to the Dedham Westwood Water District. Number 18, the applicant shall obtain approval by the town planner for any signage not included in this application and shall obtain all required signage permits from the building division prior to installation. Number 19, a copy of this decision in the project plans shall be kept on this project site at all times during construction. Number 20, the applicant shall submit as-built plans at the conclusion of construction, which shall indicate the location of all water quality units, underground storage tanks, pipes and/or appurtenances which remain on the site prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the property. The as-built plans shall be delivered in a format approved by the Information Systems Director for compatibility with the Town of Westwood GIS database. Number 21, this FMUOD special permit shall lapse if a substantial use thereof or construction thereunder has not begun except for good cause within 2 years following the grant thereof. The planning board may extend such approval for good cause upon the written request of the applicant. In the case of this approval, the term substantial use thereof or construction thereunder shall mean the commencement and substantial continued progress of the approved activity.
That's it. Thank you.
Nora, one question before we continue or take a second. If you can move up. I think it was condition 17, the snow storage. No, I guess
16.
Yeah, I thought on the drawings there was space in the right side of the plans for snow storage. Is that incorrect? Would that not be zone 1?
There was.
There was.
I think there are 2 spots that indicate snow storage.
Yeah.
There was. It just means that I would update the plans to take that off.
Okay.
Well,
I just want to make sure that's what we were intending.
Yeah, that came from the Western and Sampson comments.
Okay.
That was one of the few things that they wanted to see a change.
Okay, perfect.
Nora, could you go to number 4 and then 14? I just had a couple
Sure.
questions. Number 4. On the portion that is in connection with the foregoing, shall continue working with CSX. I would like a actual agreement, not just continue to working with. And I'm open to the other board members saying something because I know that they have started the communications with the railroad, but as of now, I don't think we have an understanding as to what that is.
So
Brian, if maybe you can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong.
I can just give you a little bit of our experience with University Station.
Sure, go ahead.
Where the project required a minor widening of University Avenue is across the CSX tracks with a just widening of the asphalt and relocation of a sidewalk. And I believe it took more than 5 years working with CSX to get that approval.
Oh, boy.
And as a result, for that 5-year period, the street was incomplete in the area that, I don't know if you remember, but it necked down at the railroad tracks and then necked
Oh,
back
yeah.
up as you.
That
as you
was
passed
5
it. So I
years?
think the intention was to write this condition with some flexibility, understanding that CSX can be extremely difficult to get a formal approval from. And rather than hold the project up, I think the intent is to allow the working with them to continue. It may take years before we actually get that approval to put the sidewalk in.
Can we just add then continue working in good faith? And then I'm okay with that.
Okay.
If that's, I didn't realize 5 years, I did not know that was.
Do I need to reread it, by the way?
I think that's acceptable to just accept the amendment.
All right.
And then I just had one quick question on 14. you have property owner's expense as compared to applicants. Is it the applicant's expense or the property owner's expense? On the second sentence.
Whichever you'd like it to be. It can be, we can change it to the applicants.
Who's responsible for putting it in right now? The
think
owner
it's-
or the applicant?
I think it's
we
the
know?
applicant. Yeah. Those are my only changes. I'm good. Actually, with those changes, I'll second the motion.
Pat, have we done everything appropriately? Has Pat left us?
No, I haven't left. I
Oh, okay, sorry.
have a new system and it's not working cooperatively. I believe you have.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. Well done by Josh. Get a lozenge. And a second by Phil with a change to what number was that changed to?
4 and 14.
4 and 14.
So you have a motion that's been amended. Mr. Ames, are those amendments acceptable to you as the maker of the motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I second it as amended.
Okay, so we're ready for a roll call vote on these conditions or on the application, the project with the conditions. Right. Okay, roll call vote. Josh,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
and I vote aye also.
Great. And now we need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Phil,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
I vote aye.
Great.
This hearing is closed.
And thank you to the 24M team and everyone who
Yeah.
participated in this.
Thank you for all your
Thank you.
work.
Thank you guys for your work.
Westwood, and
Great,
best of
greatly
luck.
appreciate all the work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good night.
Night.
Okay,
All right.
9:30. Nora, that's number one, right?
That's number one. Yes.
One down.
One
All
long
right.
one. But you have a relatively short agenda, so let's keep moving along. Your second application is consideration of a project development review application submitted by Target for alterations to site lighting in the Target portion of University Station. For the applicant, I don't actually see the applicant here. If I'm missing someone, please raise your hand. We do have our peer review consultants here, but I don't see an applicant. Well, let me bring over the peer review consultants, and if an applicant appears, I will bring them over. There were those two phone numbers previously. I'm assuming that those were the applicants, and perhaps they dropped off due to the lateness of time. So why don't we discuss the application with our peer review consultants who took the time to be here, and if the applicant comes on, the board can take up the matter for a vote, and if the applicant doesn't appear, the board can continue the hearing, or it's not a hearing, it's a discussion on public meeting. You can continue it to your next meeting if you choose to. So with that, Merrick, do you want to comment on the application?
Yeah, sure. My name's Merrick Turner. I'm with Beta Group. We were the peer reviewer to the overall University Station developer and invited back to peer review the Target application. Nora, I don't have their plans. I was anticipating that they were going to present
Okay. I have them.
essentially.
Just give me a minute and I will pull them up. right, so I have the site plan first to show where this is. Let me try to make that a little larger.
Yeah, so I think Nora, yeah, if you want to stay on that plan.
Okay.
All right, so I'd also just like to mention I'm here with Glenn Heinmiller from Land Partners. Land Partners is a lighting consultant in Cambridge, and Glenn has been helping us review this. So should the board want to hear from Glenn at some point, please feel free to let us know that. So I'm sure most people are familiar with the target development, with the overall University Station development. It's really anchored in the center by Target, just on the south side of the central driveway, and then Wegmans on the north side of the central driveway. Target is a little unusual in that it owns a portion of land to the rear, directly to the rear of the building and to the front of the building. And is everyone seeing my cursor here?
No.
Okay.
We can't see your cursor because I have the lines displayed.
All right. So Nora, I don't know if you're able just to point out the target line, but there's a lot line which emanates from the front. Yes. Yes. Continues down towards University. Yes. Excellent. So Target owns that portion of the site, and what they're proposing within that portion of the site is certain changes to the lighting system. There are a series of lights on existing poles within the various parking trays that exist there. And essentially what they want to do is modify that lighting system to provide an enhanced motion sensing capability with a view to netting energy savings. So on each of the existing light poles within that area of land that's essentially owned by Target, maintaining the existing poles and existing pole locations, obviously they want to change out the fixtures on top of those poles for a newer, slightly more modern LED fixture, which has these motion sensing capabilities. In addition to that, they want to add 4 additional lights to poles along the driveway. Nora, I don't know if you're familiar with those, but essentially in the front of the building on what is the east side of the access drive, there are 3 poles. Just come up to the building, Nora. Come up to that. Yes, this access drive here. Continue down, Nora.
Sorry.
All right, yes, and go to your left. There you go. That access drive there, they're adding an additional fixture on the top of each of those poles. So there's 2 there if you go out today, and there'll be a 3rd just basically shining down onto the access drive, just to add a little bit more light there. So in terms of operations, what Target is proposing is a modification which allows this extra sensitivity. I think before I go any further, I think one important note to make is that when the initial development was laid out, all of the lighting that was designed to a certain standard. There was a development standard across the entire core retail parking lot area. And as it happens, Target is operating their lighting slightly differently within their portion of land today. So of, say, 10 fixtures at the frontage to the building, approximately 10 fixtures or so, they essentially shut that lighting down at night with the exception of 2 or 3 fixtures. And they describe these fixtures as either team lighting or guest lighting. Guest lighting is essentially parking for customers, lighting for customers, and team lighting is lighting for employees. They have employees here over the full 24 hours So as they shut down certain lights, they leave certain lights on for team parking. And in their modified arrangement for this lighting, what they want to do is essentially repeat that operation. So today you have this portion of the lot that's operating slightly differently than the rest of the lot. For the remainder of the lot, the lighting stays on for the entire night. We have reviewed the submission that Target provided to us. We have prepared some review comments. We reviewed those comments with Target in a pre-hearing meeting. Target has provided responses to those comments at the meeting and then subsequently via 1 or 2 emails. And within the letter that the board received from us, dated December the 12th, you'll see those comments and you'll see those responses and the current comment status. By and large, the comments were fairly limited. This is really a focused application. It's not making any significant changes to the development as a whole. So there's limited criteria to review against. And I think the one criteria that wants to be discussed with the board tonight is the overall operation. Just in general, if they were replacing this lighting system and there was no operational sequence in terms of being left on all night or shut off for part of the night, the actual result of the changed out fixtures in terms of overall light levels when they're fully on would be very similar to the average lighting levels and so forth that were part of the original development and part of the target lighting level. So when they're full on. In terms of the actual color temperature of the revised fixtures, we don't see any particular issue. It's not identical, but we don't anticipate that there's going to be a noticeable difference in terms of a full-on light. So I think the question for the board is really what sequence of operation would be acceptable in terms of the lighting system going forward. As I mentioned, Target currently operates these lights slightly differently. They essentially shut them down at store closure, bar 1 or 2 fixtures at the front for the team employees. And they would actually like to continue that operation with the new fixtures installed, so essentially repeat the existing operation that they have today. So while they're installing motion detection in the fixtures, there really wouldn't be an intention to use that to its full flexibility going forward. As to the future, then there may come a time when they want to do that. So I think from a board standpoint, operationally, in our minds, there are 2 choices here. That on the one hand, the board could consider continuing to allow Target to operate in the same way that they are essentially operating the system today, which would entail shutting down fixtures for a period of the night, or a second scenario where taking flexibility of trying to achieve some energy savings, that the lights stay on in a full on mode, just as they are today while the Target store is open, and they would switch to a less illuminating mode, what is called a setback, when the store closed. And that store closure, the definition of store closure there, would be the later of the store openings in the core retail area in general, which I believe is Wegmans. So for example, if Target closed at 11 and Wegmans closed at 12, the Target operation would be influenced by the presence of Wegman, and a setback to a lower lighting level would occur in accordance with a Wegman schedule as opposed to the Target schedule. So at that point, the lighting system would dim to let's say, roughly 45% of the current 100% operation for the remainder of the night, and then during the morning hours would eventually switch off. So I think in terms of sort of basic operations and basic change, if we were talking just switching out the fixtures with no alteration of sequencing operation as compared to the core retail lot in general, the changing of the fixtures, the color temperature, not a concern. I think it's really more a consideration for the board in terms of the nature of shutting lights down or requiring some minimum setback. And Glenn from Lamb, I'm not sure if there's anything that you might like to add to that, but I think that's essentially where we got to in our thought process here.
I guess I'd just add that the light levels already in the parking lots are relatively high, and I believe that's because of the development standards. So the new light fixtures that Target's putting in will maintain those same light levels when they're at full output. But the reason I mention that is because even if you dim them to half their output, it's still a heck of a lot of light. It's still, you know, way more than you would need for visibility or security. So I guess the other comment is, like, what Target is doing is very progressive. It's what should be done and what Energy Code is starting to require, which is to shut off or dim setback parking lot lighting late at night when nobody's around. And so I would I guess I'd say I applaud them for doing that. It saves energy, it reduces light pollution. I mean, the other thing they're doing, these new LED fixtures are going to use about half the energy of the existing LED fixtures, believe it or not.
Merrick, you mentioned that they're employing a practice currently, and that deviates from what they started doing. And we saw emails from the police indicating their surveillance or their check-ins indicate that that the lights are being turned off at a certain time. I'm not sure. I can't remember when they said, but how do you know how that's come about, that they're being turned off?
No, I don't know how that's come about. I presume that's Target just exercising authority that they feel they have in terms of their rights according to the parcel in front of their property here. But no, that was news to us, and it just came up in conversation with you know, how is the system operating today, and how do you want to change that operation? So no, I'm not sure how that has actually come about.
So are they being shut off fully or just dimmed, or is dimmed
I believe,
even a possibility?
yeah, I believe they're being shut off fully, with the exception of, let's say there's approximately 10 fixtures out in front of the building there. There may be 2 or 3 that are actually being left on, which is the so-called team lighting versus guest lighting, and they leave that team lighting on for you know, late night employees accessing vehicles and so forth.
So I believe outside of Christmas they're open till 9. I could be wrong there, but that's my recollection. And Wegmans is open till midnight. So if they're closing, I don't know, if they're shutting the lights off at 10, then for 2 hours we have the project looking incredibly different right now. Is that a fair assessment of what I've been hearing?
It would certainly look different. I believe that your timing is about right there. I'm not sure the exact openings and closings in the store, but certainly there would appear to be a difference, you know, in terms of the lighting that you would observe if you were standing, you know, in the driveway, for example. It doesn't sound like there's been any complaints. I don't believe we've heard that fully from the police department yet, but it doesn't sound like there's been some complaints. And probably what's happening is, because they're on the later side shutting down, is that that there's not a lot of traffic around Wegman at that time, and there's just not a lot of looking across to that lot. And if you are, when we all think about this and look at this, you always imagine looking at this from a, from up above or from a distance. And the reality is, if you're standing in the Wegmans lot and looking across, you're seeing some different light effect just because of distance and so forth. So it may be that whilst it looks different, the folks who are observing it are just not seeing it perhaps as differently as if you were standing in the middle of the target lot.
Merrick,
Yeah,
if
I
may-
guess. Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Sorry.
Well, just some additional, I'm looking at the actual lighting plan. The so-called team fixtures are around the front, the side, the east side, and the back of the target building. And then there are also two of the maybe 10 fixtures, 10, 12 fixtures that light the main parking are left on too. So it's the whole area around the building is lighted all the time. It's my understanding. The other thing is that the adjacent lighting on either side is probably spilling into the main parking area in front of Target. So it's probably why nobody's really noticed or complained. There are also, I believe, the fixtures in front of that small retail building down at the bottom. I don't know what stores those are. I think those stay on too, if I'm reading this correctly. Okay.
Yeah, there was just, as I was a board member when this project went through, there was an expectation of continuity throughout the project on the lighting. And it's a little concerning to me that Target would unilaterally just make those changes without informing anybody. I don't know if National Development or New England Development has been privy to this, or if they have anything to say on this matter. But anyway, that's a concern I have, just that these changes just happened. I mean, they decided to turn it off, and now they're making this request of us to go ahead and make these changes. And I also believe at the time we were asking them to consider LED lighting for the parking lot, and I believe they declined. And then now we're 9 years later, and we're right here. I don't know if LED technology has advanced to that extent that it's now, or it's less expensive. I don't know, but now they paid for 2 sets of lights, or they're looking to pay.
If I
Yes,
may,
go ahead.
my understanding is the existing lighting, both in the Target lot and I think the whole development, is LED from 10 years ago, which is very early generation LED. So the new fixtures that Target is proposing to put in are much more efficient because of the advances in technology. That's my understanding from reviewing their documents.
Nor, do you recall that?
Yeah, I think that's the case. I think they did change
They
it, but
did
they
put
didn't
in
change
LED?
it to.
It is, yeah.
The fixtures
Okay.
that I think
Then
they
I'm
had
corrected.
recommended fixtures that could be controlled and put on timers, and were also probably more efficient. And I think that NED went with what they went with for the entire development. Target had no request for doing anything different. When this application came in, I did refer it to Paulson Cotta at NED. He was very surprised the Target was proposing these changes. He said he'd get back to me after speaking with the leasing department, but then I never heard anything further. So he was aware of the hearing date. I imagine if NED had any objections, they would be either attending the meeting or providing their comments. But it is something different than what's there throughout the rest of the site. I think you've heard tonight that the dialing it down a little bit is not completely inconsistent with the lighting around. The color temperature is not completely inconsistent. It's just a question of whether the board wants to allow it to be at all different for the sake of energy conservation. It might be something worth considering, but maybe the board's concern should be about that 1 to 3 hours between the time that Target closes and every other business in the mall, in the shopping center closes. So I know Wegmans is open till midnight. I believe Target was open to midnight before Christmas, is now back to closing at 9 or 9:30. I believe the license for the food establishments on the other side, Chipotle, Panera, Smashburger, I believe they all go until 11 p.m. So there is that period between when Target closes and Wegmans and the restaurants close, that probably is the only period that's of significant concern, those couple of hours there. So I think
But
that's where
Merrick,
the
you
board
would,
may want to concentrate its efforts on whether they want to allow a full reduction or a reduction down to either 45% or turning off the lights completely after everything down there closes, but then focus on that short time period after Target closes and everyone else is open, and decide whether you want to allow any reduction at that time.
Merrick, you in your presentation, you had mentioned that the latest store open would dictate.
Yeah.
Did I hear that wrong?
That's the thinking as we've been talking about it with some of the staff members in town, and with Target. Target's desire was to operate it in the same way that they currently are, and certainly there was a feeling of well, it can't be just everything in accordance with Target schedule, that there are other stores around here which are influenced by that lighting operation too, at least peripherally.
So this was town staff and your recommendation to Target, and have they responded to that?
Yeah, essentially their response was what we put in, what they put into the letter, which was, we'd like to continue to operate it the same way. There wasn't a lot of very specific detail, and that's, I think, one of the things that going forward just needs to be clarified there. The specifics about in terms of schedule, what defines schedule, opening and closing.
So I've put up on your screen Target's response to L1, where they explain what their existing conditions are. They're turning off the lighting, looks like 30 minutes after store closing.
That's what they're doing right now?
Right now. Yes. So I think we have two issues. We have what they're doing now with no approval, and the board should, if the board is willing to grant an approval for some change, they can apply that approval to what's happening now as well as what's happening in the future. If my understanding is correct, the current fixtures are turning off, but they don't have motion sensors on them. Is that correct? So
Yes.
it's actually a worse condition now with the existing fixtures that are in place, that they're turning off and they're just staying off. So if you were to be shopping at Wegmans and you want to go over to Chipotle, you're going to be driving through a dark lot right now. If the board allows them to change out the fixtures with these new fixtures that have motion detectors, and whether they allow them to drop down to 45% or turn the lights off completely, if someone approaches, either a pedestrian or a car going in the lot, the lights will turn back on. So it would be a better condition than what they're doing now. But I will point out that what they're doing now is in violation of the original decision.
So I guess the question is, like, what recourse do we have in terms of the procedural violation that they're currently undertaking?
Well, plus we have no applicant here for tonight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense to me to consider an application where the applicant didn't stick around. So we could continue it or deny it, and procedurally, whether or not, because they're in violation currently, it seems to me.
I think you've been well within your rights to ask them to appear before you and explain what's going on before you take any action at all.
Yeah, so I think it would be appropriate to continue until the January 24th meeting, but I wanted you to be able to ask Merrick and Glenn any questions that you have now, so that they don't have to sat for 2 hours waiting for that last application to go forward. So if you don't need them, if your concern to hear from Target is about why they've gone ahead and done something without approval and how they intend to operate it, you might not need the same participants for your peer review at that meeting. So.
My concern is their self-help is essentially, is it going to continue with the continuation? And that's a concern. And Pat, I don't know if we have any recourse on that.
And I don't know off the top of my head if you do, but you certainly have the recourse to bring them in and let them know your displeasure with them just self-regulating themselves without the benefit of your input as the duly elected planning board.
Yeah, I would support that. That's the part that bothers me. I mean, I'm a huge fan of more efficient lighting, and while what they're proposing is definitely an improvement, it's two separate issues, right? But I'm also not really willing to move forward with that conversation until we understand why they felt it was okay to just kind of do what they felt like without consulting with the permit granting authority. It's not the first time we've seen, it wasn't Target per se, but in 2017, NED went ahead and decided to start using sodium chloride or calcium chloride in the parking lot in direct violation of what they were allowed to do. And, you know, they didn't really seem too bothered about that. So I think it's important for us as a board to make the point, even if we can't impose any penalties aside from making it a little less convenient for the next request. It's important that we as a board make it clear that we are paying attention, and that when we find out that someone's in violation of the permit, that we at the very least expect them to come before us and try to explain why they thought that was okay. So I would be in favor of, while I think that the proposal that they've brought to us for the new lighting is solid, I would be in favor of continuing the hearing to have that conversation about their lack of compliance before we move forward with that.
I think that's reasonable. It's not actually a hearing, it's just an agenda item. So you don't have to take any action. We could just post it for the January 24th meeting.
That's what I would suggest too. Yeah.
And that'll also allow Kate to participate in this. And I can tell you that she was unable to come tonight. She was sick, but she did share with me her concerns over this application and her inclination to require the lighting to remain on.
Nora, is it reasonable to seek some input from the police department in terms of security as well?
Yes, and I have requested that, and I have not gotten it yet. So the police department did send 2 patrols out to determine what was happening currently, and they reported on that. I provided those reports to you, but they didn't actually comment on what they think should happen going forward.
Well,
So
maybe
we
we solicit those comments. I'm sorry, I can't put my picture up. It's the camera's flashing.
Chris Papp is also having trouble with his audio, so he's trying to get that working again. But if you don't have any further questions for Merrick and Glenn, we can let them go. But if
Yeah, no, I'm good.
that.
Thank you for waiting and staying and explaining everything to us. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
we're
you.
all set. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nora, were you hoping for additional comments besides just the staff comments that the police department provided?
No, that was it. I was looking for, in the staff comments, the initial comment from Chris Sheehy was that the addition of the lights on the site drive were an improvement. But I then explained in another comment to Chris that,
Gotcha.
well, did he notice that the turning off the lights has the opposite?
It's the detrimental effect. Gotcha.
Right. So I haven't heard back.
And
okay, so Chris is telling me that the problem is that the webinar has now expired. There must have been a time limit on it, so he's not able to join with his phone to get audio.
So what do we do?
For the remainder of the meeting, Chris, I'm going to have to ask you to type into the chat.
Hold on. Who's the vice chair? Who's the second in command?
Alan. Alan, you're in charge. You're the boss.
Hello, can you hear me?
You get the field.
We can hear you.
Yes.
So we have no further hearings.
I apologize, everyone.
Oh, you're back.
I don't know what the heck is happening here, but it just died, and I'm sorry.
So we have no further hearings, but anyone who's on can continue. We have 3 more items. One is discussion on the zoning and general bylaw amendments, and then we have 2 A&R plans. One of those A&R plans, Lou Petrozzi is the applicant, and he's been waiting since the start of the meeting. So if you are willing to take that out of order, I think that would be helpful. So if that's okay, I'll bring Lou in to make him a
That makes sense.
panelist and
Yes,
then
please.
he'll display his
Yes.
plan.
Nice to have you back, Chris.
Sorry for my early vacation there. Is Lou still here?
He is.
Okay. He's a panelist now.
Okay, Lou is on. Lou, can you hear us?
Yep,
Can you speak?
yep,
Okay.
yep. Hold on.
All right, let me show your plan.
Okay, thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Nice to see you, Lou.
Okay, hopefully everyone can see that. Let me reduce it a little so you can see the full plan. So Lou, do you want to explain?
Sure, sure. This is property at 490 Gay Street that we recently purchased in March. And the property consists of approximately 14 acres. We've subdivided the property into 2 building lots and 1 lot that's not to be considered a building lot. As you can see, lot 1 is where the existing house is presently, and lot 2 is the larger portion of the rear part of the land that has its frontage on Gay Street, and a separate parcel out to the back, which we're not sure whether or not it may be sold off to one in a butter or not. So we're keeping that as a separate parcel at this point. And we've had discussions with the building department, and they've are okay with this plan as far as I can remember.
So as Lou described, lot 1 and lot 2 both have sufficient frontage on Gay Street, and they both have actual access across that frontage. And parcel A is noted as not a buildable lot. So I believe the plan meets the criteria for an A&R plan and does not show a subdivision.
All right. Thank you. Any questions from board members of Mr. Petrosi?
Yeah, I actually just have a couple of quick questions. I'm curious about the unconventional lot shape for where you're carving out where the current dwelling is. Can you just kind of help me understand why it
Sure.
has that?
Well, the zoning bylaws require you to have 175 feet of frontage and a minimum lot width of 175 feet that you have to maintain throughout where the building is going to be located. So, we have to maintain the 175 at the frontage, and then we have to clear that little point where we have the measurements. And then once we get past that, we have plenty of lot width going through the rest of the parcel. But it's a zoning requirement that you have in your bylaws.
Sure, I understand that. I was curious why you opted to have that triangular portion instead of maybe going further back. Is it because of all the wetlands in the second lot? Because I know that's a large lot, but
yeah, it was kind of like we could have made it into a square box shape, or we could have looks a little bit more conventional than just having like a square, 80 foot by 80 foot square box on the end of the lot as opposed to a point. It really didn't have any. It's just a matter of preference, I guess.
okay. It caught my eye as being rather geometric. And just for my personal curiosity, I am guessing you're planning to build in the non-wetland area on that 9-acre parcel that's the second, in the sequence of three.
There'll be we're going to be filing a notice of intent with the Conservation Commission shortly that will allow for construction of a house on that lot too. And obviously we cannot fill any wetlands, so we will be in the the upland portion of the property to build that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Nora, since we're just discussing the lot itself, this is conforming with our shape factor.
It is. The shape factor is listed there.
Oh, I couldn't see that. Sorry.
I believe 24.7 is the shape factor that's shown
Okay.
for lot 1. Shape factor of 41 for lot 2. I will point out that the shape factor is not applicable to A&R lots. It is only
Oh,
applicable to
right.
subdivision lots.
Right. Okay.
But we still ask the applicants to show the shape factor.
Okay. Any other board members with questions or comments? Okay.
Okay, so I can put up proposed motion.
This is a motion to endorse.
Yes.
I'll jump in.
Make that motion?
Yeah, I'll do it. I hereby move that the planning board find the approval not required application for 490 Gay Street dated December 20, 2022 to be complete, and that the board vote to endorse the submitted plan as not requiring approval under the subdivision control laws.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Josh?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
Phil?
Aye.
And I'm an aye also.
Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you. All
Thank
right,
you very
we're all
much. Good
set,
luck.
So I'll need everyone to go to the police station.
Great, thank you very
sign
much.
Bylaw.
All right, yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
How many
Would you
copies,
like
Nora?
to
will be
take
there?
up the other A&R plan before going back to zoning?
Sure.
Let me get that one displayed.
While you're doing that, can I ask what happened with Target? Did we continue that?
So you don't have to officially continue. You chose to continue it. It's not a public hearing, so I will just make sure
Okay.
it's on the next agenda.
All right.
Wait, let me just find this. This is 109 Rock Meadow. Okay, so this plan is was submitted by Stephen David. It involves what's currently one lot at the corner of Rock Meadow Road and Dover Road that has an existing home on it. And the applicant would like to divide this into two lots. One lot would have frontage on Rock Meadow Road, and the other lot would have its frontage on primarily on Dover Road with a small portion on Rock Meadow. The second parcel is shown as not a buildable lot because it does not have sufficient frontage. This lot is in the single residence C zone and is required to have a minimum of 125 feet of frontage. Actually, looking at that, it does look like it has 125 feet. So I'm not really sure why he has it listed as not a buildable lot.
Is there frontage? It looks like it curves on the bottom left. Does it curve to the point where it's not 125? Because what is that, 130
Well,
the
it
width
shows this
above it?
length right here. I don't know if you can
Oh,
see
yeah, I
that,
can see it
but
now.
the
Now
length
that you
of
said it.
that shows 125.36 feet. From this point to this point. So,
And the other side is fine, right?
excuse me?
The other lot is fine on, or it's gonna have
Yes, the
frontage
other
on
lot
Rock Meadow.
has 228 feet of frontage on Rock Meadow and also has this additional frontage on Dover Road. That lot is fine. The setbacks are appropriate. I've had that lot reviewed by the building commissioner to determine that it would be a fully conforming lot after the A&R plan. So I actually don't recall offhand why Stephen lists this one as not a buildable lot, but
Does that affect how we endorse this and what he's
it
left
does
with?
not. So you endorse the plan because it doesn't show a subdivision. There's actual access across the frontage to both lots. This one has an existing driveway that you can access. This one does not have a driveway. It could be, no, it shows it's not, there are no wetlands. It's all upland. So I really don't recall offhand why he's determined that that's not a buildable lot. But regardless, you can create the lots, and it's the building commissioner that determines if a lot is eventually buildable.
So that doesn't impact our consideration.
It does not. The only thing that would prevent you from endorsing it is if you find that it's that either lot that the lot division would be a subdivision and a road would be required. And I don't see any conditions where that would be the case.
Nora, not that it's super pertinent to whether or not we endorse it, but do we know why they're going to subdivide this lot?
Yes, I have spoken to Stephen, and he's interested in obtaining additional land from an abutter to the what direction are we in? Let me see.
To the left?
To the left, to the west of parcel 2. He's negotiating with the people who own the land next to that to gain some of their land in order to make this a buildable lot. So it might have to do with accessing it. Maybe there's a problem with the access over this portion of it. I don't know.
Got it. Thank you.
Could it be site
Sight lines. We don't have sight line requirements for driveways for single family homes. So I don't think that's it.
okay.
But I don't see the grading on here. It's possible maybe there's a dip there.
Could be a
that for
grading
some
issue,
reason,
yeah.
like, you can't get across that lot. I discussed this with him, I don't know, probably about 2 months ago, and I can't recall what his concern was. But I did review the A&R plan, and I reviewed it with our building inspector, and there were no concerns.
Okay.
I'm good to go.
All right. Do you have motion for us? Motion
Yes.
language?
Get that? Okay, there you go.
I don't see anything up.
Oh, sorry.
No, there's nothing
Yeah, now
else.
we still have the plan.
We
Why
could
do you
read the
think it
plan, the
doesn't?
zoning table.
Sherry, you don't see that?
It's not there.
No.
Can we stop it and start again?
Oh, you might have just had it.
There we go.
Do you see it now?
Yep. Yeah, 109 Rock Meadow, number 4.
I move that the planning board find the approval not required application for 109 Rock Meadow Road dated January 13th, 2021, and revised through November 29, 2022 to be complete, and that the board vote to endorse the submitted plan as not requiring approval under the subdivision control laws.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Phil?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Now going back to the third agenda item, we have a discussion of potential zoning bylaw and general bylaw amendments. So I sent out board members a revised version of the 5 articles. I can call that up as well. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Make it a little bit bigger. Oops. Sorry, I lost it. Just 1 second. Try again.
That's more familiar.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, so I made revisions to address concerns that were raised at the December 13th, I think it was, the last meeting. So I updated the sections that you asked for. Most of the changes were, let me just find it. Here, to energy efficiency, I changed that from just a single paragraph to separated out to energy conscious design. I'm sorry, that was already separated out. We did that. Sorry, I think I just updated water efficiency to include gray water reclamation and similar measures. That was a request, and then the area I changed. In the landscaping, this is where I separated out into 3 portions. It used to just be about sustainable landscaping. It was 1 section. I made it 3 subsections. The first to address grading, the second to address existing and proposed trees, and the third to require the removal of noxious plants. That was the main changes to that article. The next article regarding dumpsters, I think the only change I made here was to remove the word normal from if visible at normal eye level for any point on abutting lot. It's just at visible at eye level. What else? Don't believe there were any changes to dumpsters. And there were no other changes to the housekeeping articles. So I think that was it.
Nora, can you go back to this energy conscious section? I just, one of the revisions where you had separated them out, the last one regarding the solar, I believe, or renewable energy, I think is. It's farther down, yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Very slow.
I think the last one, the next page. Oh,
renewable
too far.
energy, yes.
Yeah. So can we go through that again, up a little higher, where it's all in red? Number 2, it must be, yeah, renewable energy. So can you explain to me how this plays out to an applicant?
Yeah. So if you're an applicant that's proposing a new non-residential structure that's at least 5,000 square feet in floor area, you are required to either provide solar panels or wind turbines that will cover 50% of your energy needs for the building within 5 years of moving into the building, getting your certificate of occupancy, or you are required to request a waiver from the planning board. And a waiver from the planning board would either be, can I not put any sustainable renewable energy component of my building, or can I do it for 25% of my energy needs, or can I do it within 10 years? Those would be the factors that the planning board would have to consider. But the straight without waiver requirement would be that you'd have to cover 50% of your energy needs, either through wind or through solar or something else that would be sufficient.
Nora, could you purchase what if you had the ability to purchase renewable energy from another source? Would
You
that
could absolutely, the way it's written now, you would have to ask the planning board to grant a waiver to allow that.
right?
But if you'd like to expand the language to allow that right up front, then you wouldn't even need to request a waiver.
Could you provide an example of a building in Westwood that's non-residential that is about 5,000, that threshold?
I should have done that. I should have looked. I would say
Yeah, you said last time it was like
it's
Chipotle.
smaller than Del Frisco's or Not Your Average Joe's. Let me just quickly look through ArcGIS
Sorry.
and see if I can find something.
So, and the requirement for a waiver is subjective to the planning board. It's
It
not
is.
as stringent as a variance from the ZBA or something like that.
Right. I don't think you've had an application in months that you haven't had at least one waiver that you've granted. It's pretty commonplace, but it's not by right. So if the board wants to,
I'm fine
set
with
up a bill, that's a possibility.
you don't have to keep looking. I'm fine with the Del Frisco's and not
Sorry,
right.
I should have done that. I
No,
should
it's
have
I
had that
just
right.
want the whole board and anyone listening or watching to have a full understanding of what we're talking about. That's the minimum size.
That's the
So
minimum,
anything
right?
bigger than
So a building that's smaller than that, like we had talked about the new Shell station on Route 1, that would be too small for this to come into play. Something like Wentworth Hall, that would be sized appropriately, that would require. If that was a brand new building coming before you now, that would be over 5,000 square feet, and that would require this.
And this is also for municipality, municipal
It is
building.
for any non-residential structure.
Okay.
Yes.
So the town itself would be held to the
It
same
would.
standard.
It would, yes. Unless you granted a waiver.
Yeah, I mean waivers on this, I could see a board being reticent to do that just for establishing precedent. So I don't know. I mean, I think Pat's example of purchasing renewable energy from another source is a good example of why a waiver would be granted. Wind turbines, I think people have a visual of, and it's not always favorable visually. I understand why it's included here as an alternative, but I'm just trying to wrap my head around the full breadth of what this could mean to projects going forward.
So you could add to this. I'll type it. You can decide if that's something you're interested in.
Shall provide evidence, produce evidence, maybe. How about provide evidence, Nora?
Okay. Better optics.
Feel like I'm in a writer's workshop here.
Yeah, I would take out the purchase. They may already have credits of the existence of offsite renewable energy credits. Of the existence. Because if they have the credits, they can use them.
That's right.
I like that. I think that covers that scenario.
So I guess going back to, ensuring people follow what they've committed to, like this would be an ongoing purchase agreement potentially, right? And like how would we ensure that this occurs in
So
perpetuity?
it would have to be a condition of the decision if that's the choice that they make. We have those standard conditions that they have to pursue the project with diligence and continuity and
Yep.
in full conformance with the plans, their plan would have to show this purchase, and we would put a condition in their decision saying that the purchase has to be renewed annually.
And what happens if that is no longer available to them?
Then they
And they
become,
would,
well, they are either in violation or they filed some other way. For instance, adding solar or wind turbine or finding another credit source.
Or they come back and they try to get a
a
waiver.
waiver, yeah.
Right, or they come,
Because I mean,
they
I
would
could
be
see that
back before the
being,
board.
I could see that being cost prohibitive to many businesses.
To
I mean,
come back after?
to come back, no, not to ask for a waiver, but to install solar after the fact. If they had been relying on the purchase of credits and now they have a building that doesn't have solar, that's not solar ready, and a relatively small business may look at that install purchase as something that is prohibitive.
Yeah.
I really
and if
don't
that was
know,
the case, then I think they would be back before the board asking you to waive that requirement and show hardship that would give you grounds to waive it.
do you think things like that need to be baked into this language at this particular place? Or is that more of a policy or procedure of the board?
Well, I guess what I would say is it depends on how strongly you want to encourage renewable energy. If you want applicants to really take this to heart and build, remember this only applies to new structures.
Right.
So if someone is building a new structure, you're asking them to begin their design process with the knowledge that this is a requirement.
And go ahead, Nora, I'm sorry.
If there's something particular about their site or their proposed use that makes this either unaffordable or unattainable physically, then they have grounds to request a waiver, and the board could grant that waiver.
And I think you as a board have to evaluate how serious you believe they are about their renewable energy. If you don't think it's a good source, then I think you need to have that frank discussion with them while you're having a hearing.
Okay, I'm not against this. I'm just trying to vet out to make it a realistic bylaw.
I would say,
I don't want to be
including this
draconian here.
language doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see more solar energy, but it's at least making people think about it. It's not holding anyone to this because you do have the ability to grant a waiver. This is similar to requiring a model, which we're changing now. You don't have to have a model, but you do have to have stormwater management plans, right? Every application is required to have stormwater management and traffic studies. But in many cases, you look at the proposal, you say, well, you're not doing a whole lot. You really don't need to produce those things, even though they're required, and you grant a waiver. You
Chris,
still have the ability to grant a waiver here.
Chris and planning board members, I believe you will get some pushback on this from the people who are pro-business. That this may have a chilling effect on business development. Just
I guess that's part of my underlying concern.
I understand.
I don't want to push away businesses that are attracted to Westwood that then read this and say, I'm not doing that. I can't afford that, or something like that. I don't know. But I'm in favor.
Well, that's
of
also
solar.
part of what the hearing process is for you to make a decision. And you can adjust it moving forward. And, the hearing process may produce other good ideas. Some of the best work this board has done over the last couple of years has come during the hearing process where you've made adjustments to your zoning changes.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah, so this is drafted in response to the comments that you've had at various hearings over the last year, where not only board members, but residents have asked for greater sustainability and renewable energy. So this is one way of getting people to think about that. It doesn't lock anyone into it because it's a waivable requirement, but if board members don't want to go forward with this, it could be removed, or it could be kept in for the hearing stage.
I don't want to be characterized as being against this. I'm all for vetting it out and coming up with the best best draft language we can come up with. And this might be it. It might be fully vetted
What's a
right now.
starting point?
But yeah, no, I'm all for pursuing it.
Or
I
the
just
question
wanted to
could
make
be
sure
the
it was
5,000
discussed.
square footage, because it's probably the smaller guys that are going to be negatively impacted that might not be able to.
That might be a bigger price tag for him, Phil. You're absolutely right.
And that's so that might be the kind of trigger, is the 5,000 square feet.
Maybe you want to make that a larger number.
Well, I'm personally fine starting at the 5. If it becomes a negotiable point, then we use that. We obviously, if we can't get it past the town meeting, then it's a pointless bylaw. We have to listen and draft something that we think is going to be approved by the town. It's no different than the medical bylaw that we did a couple of years ago and
that,
last year.
That thing got rewritten several
Countless
times.
Yeah. Right.
And the area changed regularly, and the process worked. The one thing you got to remember about zoning bylaws, and I know you all know this, is they require 2/3 vote at town meeting, which is a very high threshold.
Yep. So I'm fine keeping this as a starting point. I just want to make sure we're ready to listen and acknowledge that, you know, this might be a good start, but we may have to make some tweaks here and there. And I didn't even get into the other, you know, water efficiency, energy efficiency, and those might be fine as is. I wanted to have the conversation about the solar. It's come up.
One other thing I should point out, that these are in the section of the bylaw that is the environmental impact design standards. So there's a long section where an applicant has to answer how their project addresses all of these areas. And then the planning board reads that and says they approve the project or they don't. Or, you know, you might not have addressed this concern, but you've doubled down on some other concerns. So it's more about the standards as starting points, but few projects meet all of the EIDR standards.
And Nora, I had a question. You had mentioned that this only applies to new construction or new development. This wouldn't apply to substantially remodeled or renovated commercial projects?
So the design standards apply to everybody, but I thought the way we had written that it was new, and if it's not, I'll make sure I'll change it. Let's see, all proposals.
I actually think it does. It sounds like it's not just.
So why do we say new non-residential? And the reason why it would only, the renewable energy would only apply to new structures is that existing structures are not necessarily structurally capable of having.
Yeah, as we heard tonight, the roof may not be designed to handle.
Yeah, that's exactly the consideration.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
much fairer. Someone repurposing a building that's existing, yeah, that might be, again, cost prohibitive to not just pay for the solar, but to bolster the strength of the ceiling.
The was definitely for new structures.
Yeah, but we could also just waive it if they could provide engineering evaluation that the roof couldn't hold it, right? Like,
so like on a hardship basis?
Yeah, I mean, that's what that is. You know, to be quite frank, I sort of was not sure about the legitimacy of 24M's comment that their roof could not support solar arrays, but at the same time, that's not a per se requirement that we have on our bylaws, or we forced other developments to have. So it's an ask. They said maybe, and that's sort of good enough, I guess, for now. But I don't know, just sort of thinking out loud.
I'm okay with the 5,000. I'm just a little concerned that with the cost that can, as Pat was saying, that could chill a small businessman who's trying to, start.
Yeah, it's a much higher percent of their probable revenue.
Well, so if you think about it, if someone's choosing between Westwood and Dedham or Norwood, and we have this requirement and they don't, that cost may drive them to one of our competitor neighborhood towns who we
So I
compete
think
with
it's
for some
far
of
more
those.
likely that if there is a business that's looking at two different towns, that they will ask whether this is something that they have to do or whether it could be waived.
We would hope they would do their due diligence, yes.
Yeah. So I don't think it will weed anyone out from the beginning, but I think an applicant could come and say, is this something that I'm going to have to do, or can I show that it's just not cost effective for me and still get my approval? And then we would counsel them that they could go before the planning board and request a waiver.
I think, obviously I've been asking for this as well. And I understand the concern that maybe we drive businesses away, but I also think it's okay to be a little discerning. Like if in the scenario that Nora just outlined, if the business comes to us and we decide that the value add of that business to our community outweighs the need for them to, meet that sustainability requirement, then maybe we, or whatever incarnation of the board exists at that point, chooses to grant the waiver. But I feel like if we don't try, we've left it to goodwill for years, and businesses are not choosing to do this to the level that I and many of our residents feel that they should. So I think, we've tried incentivizing, we've tried asking, I think, or we've tried not asking and just waiting for people to do the right thing. And I don't feel that enough businesses are. Everyone talks about being solar ready, and all these businesses are saying, well, we're solar ready. Well, that's great, but that solar ready isn't actually generating any kilowatts and offsetting your own carbon footprint. So I think we should absolutely, try. And we're baking in, and I'm sure this bylaw will change before it goes to town meeting, but to Nora's point, we baked in the ability for us to say, yeah, you know what, we understand that cost is prohibitive for you, and we have room to compromise if we decide that business is enough of a value add to our community that we could do that. But I think there are some larger entities that are coming to town that can afford to do these kind of things, or that are looking at coming to town, and we should hold them accountable. And I think we need to start thinking along those lines. It's in keeping with the comprehensive plan. We're talking in other ways about hazard mitigation plans and climate change and whatnot. Like, I think we as a community are starting to understand that we have a responsibility to start thinking more in terms of clean energy and what we can do to offset some of the impacts of what's going on around us. And that's just.
I agree with that. It's the small guy. I echo Josh's kind of skepticism of 24M and say, they probably could bear that cost. And the bigger, just as you say, the larger entities is something that I think we probably should be pushing upon. The little guys, this is going to be a major expenditure that could be a tipping point on whether or not they come in or not. That's my concern. And that's where I think it is the 5,000 square foot threshold.
So I just want to point out, just to put it in context, your bylaw already has requirements for stormwater management. If you buy even an old property in town that's previously developed, the bylaw requires you to bring up the stormwater management to current standards. It requires you to put in landscaping to current standards. Those are costs that developers or people reusing a small business coming in to operate in an existing space, they have to comply with those or request a waiver. And the board considers those waivers all the time. I don't see this as really significantly different than that. The stormwater requirements are intended to improve our water quality. The landscaping requirements are intended to improve shade and also to improve the appearance of our neighborhoods. And this is intended to improve our case with renewable energy. So I think it's consistent with what Westwood does in other areas of its zoning bylaw. And I think it still has that same waivability allowed.
So Nora, I think when we made the change to include stormwater, there was probably a similar concern when we made the change to include landscaping. It might have been 40 years ago. I don't know when those things happen. But anytime you invoke a change and require someone to spend more money, there's going to be a concern that those people might say, you know what, I'm going to the neighboring town that doesn't make me spend this money. So we're in that transition period. And I think Phil has identified, and I agree with him, those smaller businesses who occupy smaller buildings generally are going to make less money than Target or Wegmans, who are sitting on a large property.
Right.
So that's the concern. And I think if we just gloss over it without any concern, we're looking at one goal without considering everyone in our town, including the property owner. So, and also I'm thinking about this more. I believe keeping the word new in there for new non-residential, I think could be very harsh to a landlord, the building owner, who then has to retrofit it to make it either pay for it or work out something. I think of all those buildings, and they're probably not 5,000 feet, but up by Roach Brothers, up that lot, there's probably not 5,000 square foot buildings there, but that's what I keep coming back to in my head is these existing buildings. And now that landlord has to do even more stuff to get it occupied. And maybe it sits longer and we don't collect taxes from a business in there. And so I'm just looking at the whole big picture, not just I want solar everywhere. I think this transition period, we have to be somewhat delicate. We can't just shove it down people's throats necessarily. And again, I've stated I'm in favor of this bylaw. I just want to make sure we talk it through. Because everyone deserves a consideration here. Every viewpoint deserves a consideration.
I agree, and maybe the board wants to consider increasing that 5,000 square feet.
I also you want to point out the fact that a 5,000 square foot business, it depends on what type of business, of course, but is going to use less energy. It was going to have less energy requirements, right? So the investment up front is going to be less than, say, like perhaps the de minimis cost to bring up the stormwater management, right? Like that might, regardless of how big the site is, it might be a $10,000, $20,000 input, right? So, the solar panel requirements, although waivable, would scale with the size of the project. So it wouldn't be as big of an expenditure for a smaller business. Although I don't think a 5,000 square foot business is all that small either, to be frank. But I would personally want to ensure, the larger businesses that do use more energy are held to the fire more. I think we're all in agreement on that.
I think we're all saying the same thing. I think there's a concern, and I just again just the 5,000 square foot is the limit. Smaller businesses oftentimes run on smaller margins, and a capital expenditure that can be substantial can be a tipping point. So that's I've said my piece.
And like I said, I'm fine if we want to move forward with this. We'll take it to the next step, which Nora would be what?
Well, the next step would be advertising for a public hearing on February 7th. That'll be your first public hearing, and then you will bring this to, after having a hearing and revising the articles, you would bring it to the Finance and Warrant Commission for their hearings as well. You will continue your hearings pretty much right up until town meeting. But the very first step is to request the listing of these articles on the warrant, and that request goes to the select board, and we need to get that request to the select board by January 9th. That's when their meeting is, when they intend to close the warrant.
That's correct.
So our decision tonight is moving this forward.
Yes.
To the 9th. Okay.
And it's for all 5 articles. So I didn't address the first one, which was earth material movement. I think you had reviewed that fully at your last meeting, and I don't think there were any significant changes that were made. I'm just going quickly through it just to see if I see anything that stands out, and I don't think I do. I think you were pretty happy with the way that one was drafted. Yeah, that's it. So it was the sustainability one that had the most comments last time.
Okay, so what do you need from us?
I lead a motion to send these articles to the select board
For consideration for
for
town meeting.
consideration to be added to the warrant.
So moved.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Josh,
Aye.
Ellen,
aye.
Phil,
Aye.
and I vote aye also.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item on your agenda is review of draft meeting minutes for the December 13th meeting. I will say that I did hear from Kate that she thought that there was one item left out of the minutes regarding bicycle racks. And I did not get time this afternoon to take a look at the tape and see where that came into play.
What was she saying was
I think it was in the discussion
incomplete?
of the zoning bylaw. She said there was some mention of an amendment to the bylaw to address bicycle racks. And I do remember, but I don't remember exactly where it came in. I think we talked about whether that should be in the zoning bylaw or whether it was adequately covered by the planning board's standards for automobile and bicycle parking. But I'd have
So
to
should we just,
take a look at it. So if you don't mind, just delay.
we just give you time? Yeah,
We'll
that's
take
what I
them
was
up
gonna say.
along with the minutes. So this meeting, we'll take them up for January 24th.
Is everyone okay with that?
Nora, do you want to ask the select board to hold this potential warrant article for bicycle racks?
No, it would be included in the sustainability.
All right, I just want to make sure, because once we
No.
close the warrant, it's gone.
Not a separate article. It was a
Okay.
question of whether we should add another section to the sustainability article to.
Okay, all right.
Bicycle. All right.
Sorry, quick question on that note. I know Josh and I had touched base about potentially trying to draft that tree bylaw that we had talked about. I hadn't had time to take a look at it between our last meeting and now with the holidays. But if there's still interest in at least trying to do that, I know we can always drop it off the warrant later. Is it worth asking to put a placeholder in for that?
So if the board is interested in doing it, you would have to request the placeholder now.
Yeah, you'd have to request a placeholder.
But my concern is that there won't be time to advertise it for a public hearing unless I have it by Friday.
And I think you need to work with Karen Catrone, who's the tree warden for the town, to really do a meaningful article.
Is she the tree warden now instead of Brendan? Or
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
maybe
would,
we defer that.
Yeah, so the timing is really all about the hearing notice that has to be put in the paper, and Friday's the deadline. So that's why we're, if you don't have draft language,
Well,
don't
also,
expect to have by Friday. I don't think it's
the rest of us wouldn't have opportunity to chime in on the language, would we?
Yeah. There'd be no vetting time.
And if we have to have it done by Friday, I don't know if we can get that done.
I'd hate to see one hastily crafted.
Right. That's where I was going. That's how you draft this is going to be very important. And you need to take your time and do it. I believe you need to take your time and do it right. And I think it'll be extremely challenging thing to draft, as I sit here and think about it.
What are the odds we have a fall town meeting?
We won't
have
know
one
till
unless the board decides not to. So
I don't know what's coming down the line. I know
we won't know till
officially.
September 15th, Mr. Pat.
I know, not officially, but you see the train coming before it's on you.
I'm not sure you do.
I don't know. I was just going to say that.
Right. If you're looking for the train,
or you get run over and you crush.
Look both ways for the train.
It's obviously getting very late here, folks.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So I will send
Anything
those
else?
5 articles, and then we'll get a town planner soon, and we'll work on the tree article.
Sounds good.
And actually, Nora, I would also like to revisit to at whatever later point, the potential to incorporate the speed limit adoption from the
Right.
state of Mass as well.
It's on the list.
Awesome.
Okay, next item on the agenda is updates from agency and committee representatives. I don't know that there have been any recent meetings anyone wants to report on. Okay,
I don't hear any.
then the next item, last item on the agenda is general miscellaneous updates and administrative items, and I just have one. We have an action plan that is due to the Department of Housing and Community Development by the end of January to explain how we intend to act to comply with the MBTA communities law. So this was discussed a little bit at your last meeting in the context of zoning amendments, and it was my understanding the board decided to take the position that we have created a district of reasonable size that complies with the law. So if that is still your position, that's the action plan I'll write, that we created the Mumford zone, we are looking to implement that zone, and then further evaluate that zone later, but with the understanding that it appears to be a zone of reasonable size for Westwood and appears to be in compliance with the law. So I will submit that, and I will have it in writing for you at your meeting on the 24th before I submit it. It's due on the 31st.
No, I think when we were drafting this, we talked about other zones of comparable size,
Right.
or less, in the town of Westwood that show it's been passed by the Attorney General's office, accepted as a zone of reasonable size.
Right.
And so maybe we could cite those as examples of why we think this 16 acres is proportionate to our town.
I'm sure Pat will work with me on drafting something.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I think that's it.
All right. Anything else from anyone? Updates? Okay. Nora, thank you for everything.
Thank you. All right, motion to adjourn?
Yeah,
You
someone
need
make
a motion for adjournment.
Yeah, can't just hang up.
No.
I heard so moved from someone. Josh
second.
moved it.
And I second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Ellen,
Aye.
Josh,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
I vote aye. Thanks
Have a good night,
everyone for your
everybody.
work.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
folks.
night.
And
Thank
Happy New
you.
Year.
On the 24th.
Okay. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.